What's up, guys? Is everything okay? Unfortunately, uh, sad. Anyway, hello, people of the world. Hello, guys. Hello, hello, hello. Um, I don't know if you guys can actually even hear me anymore. Hello. Okay. So it's some um basically, right? Basically, ba- basically, uh, I don't even know what to say right now because I'm so pissed off, and I don't want to be pissed off so early in the morning. Um, well, um, okay. So what's happening right now is that my I'm using OBS right now instead of like any other things. I don't know if I should start reading at all. Um, hello. If someone is in my chat, please say something. Excusez-moi. Okay, so there's one person watching. Okay, so what's happening right now is that my amazing Streamlabs just died on me in every way possible. And I'm trying to like by right I'm just but right, I should just be focusing on reading the book, but I'm like very very annoyed by this thing right now. Like I have my I have my stuff. You know what I mean? Like I have everything I need. In my Streamlabs. Like I took so much time to set up all the extensions, and now my extensions are gone. So I'm not entirely sure what should I be doing right now. I forgot how do I. This is very annoying. Extremely annoying. Extremely annoying. I don't even know what to do right now. Activate it. Okay. Yeah, let us see. Let us see, okay. I'm like testing things, okay. This is very annoying. Okay, that worked. Alright, guys, welcome to my reading session, which has now turned into a fucking, oh my god, which has turned into a, let's set up um things. How do I test? I want to test some other stuff. Okay. Channel point. Extension. I'm not even like seriously. Let's do this. Let's do this. This is fucking annoying. I want to. There's so many. I have so many things. So many things. So many things that I need to add. I feel so annoyed because I have so much shit going on. Okay. Okay, thank you. That was a great fucking. Okay, what is. Okay, that worked. I'm like fucking setting shit out one by one right now. This is fucking horrendous. It's okay. We do these things. We do these things live, so you know how hard it is to be a streamer. Okay, you guys. Lamau, FD. Ah! Why? Yes, yeah. We'll fucking do it live, man. Like, seriously, this is so annoying. Holy shit, I want to just fucking. Okay. So we got this, pretty good. What else did it? Okay. How do I? What else? What else? What else are my extension? Oh, Ando, you're here. Oh my god, Ando. I fucking want to kill myself right now, seriously, because I got I got so much shit. I I'm restarting. I'm oh my god, I want to cry. I really just okay. Let me put a crying sad face first. Okay, this is me right now. Okay, this is me right now, and you can't like this is it. Okay, I have to re. Why? Why? どうして can't even fucking how do I you know what is going on? I don't even remember. Then the problem is that I can't even open my like where's how do I put my follower goals? Where's my TP my tip jar, you know? I don't even remember anything. Seriously. This is disgustingly stupid. Where's my TP jar? Where's all my shit? Where's everything? Browser lock on. Volume. No. It's not like it's not about this. No. Add extension. Twitch extension. The hydrate didn't work. Did hydrate didn't work, right?
Stretch.
Okay, it does. Okay. Okay, so that one's done. Sound alerts. Sound alerts is okay. What is dude? I'm gonna cry, bro. Please. Okay. So I'm supposed to be reading, as you guys know, but here I am, trying to like fucking. Where do I? Like, what do I do exactly? Like, you know. How do I add like little things? Audio input, audio output, everything is okay, I think so far. Like, you guys can hear me fine, right? You guys can hear me fine. You guys can hear the game fine, right? So I'm trying to like look. Oh my god. Okay, guys, thank you for the follow. Even though I'm not reading yet, that Cornelius look. Is this real or is this fake? Okay. Okay, Cornelius. Okay. Hi, Cornelius. Thank you for the follow. Okay, so what's happening right now is that this very fine fucking morning, my Streamlab decided to die on me. I tried to restart it. It didn't work. I had to uninstall it and get OBS instead. So yeah, and now I know I could be reading right now. I can read right now, but you know, I guess I'm fucking OCD as fuck or something that I need to like go and find out where how like where's my follow goal? How do I add the follower goal in OBS? Like, I have to find that out. But you know what, guys? You know what? You know what? I look sad and all, but it's okay. Everything is okay. Okay, everything is okay. I'm gonna change back my face into a neutral face, and then I'm gonna start reading now because this is pointless. After we start, yeah, OBS. The reason why I didn't use OBS at first is because it's so. I like OBS. Like in my previous computer, I used OBS, but after I saw how Streamlabs was so easy to set up, so I just chose to use Streamlabs. Browser source, right? I know I managed to get my sound alerts and my like at least my Banana Points redemption, everything is working right now, so I'm at least happy about that right now. But the problem is that I don't have. I'm too used to things on my screen like my follower goal and my activity screen, like who just followed me and all that. So I need to like, you know what? We'll read the book now, and then I'll figure that the rest of the things later. Okay, we'll read the book now. I'm like 1 hour and 10 minutes in. I haven't started reading the book, and I'm gonna the way I highlight this video is gonna be amazing. Basically, oh shit, no image. Okay. Anyway. Thank you, Cornelius. Yes, I believe I have to go into browser source and try to look for things to add into my. Hey, at least my microphone is working. At least my audio capture is working. The sound alert blurbs and everything are working as well. You guys can hear the sound from the blurbs, right? Can you guys hear? Can you guys hear this?
Nice. Perfect. Why am I dead?
Okay, just checking. Can you guys hear that? Okay, yes, I'm very much dead. Yes, thank you. Okay, and then another one. I'm sorry, I'm just super annoying. And I just need to check out, okay? I really just need to check out, okay? Okay. What about this?
Set for me, please.
Can you hear it? Can you guys confirm that you hear it? Okay, good. All right, guys. Let's read. What happened to my Streamlab? I have to start over again now. Okay, let's do it. We are going to read book. Oh wait, let me restart my party finder. I'm pretty sure it's gone by now. Yeah. Oh wait, shit! I didn't even put it up because. Okay, ちょっと待ってください. Alright, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go! There's a lot of technical difficulties when it comes to streaming. Alright. Okay, bye bye, Ando. Have fun. Okay, today we are finishing up this book called Afternoon of the Gosling by Marlys Huffman. So, Cornelius, I don't know how far you got into listening to this, but you can always listen again to the thoughts and everything. Okay, so here is right. The last chapter basically. We are going to end this book. Oh my god, my mind is everywhere. I'm just telling you. We are going to finish reading this book today, and after that, if there are lots of you here, I really hate this because I can't even see how many people are watching right now. Yeah, I can't even see how many people are watching right now on my stream. That's fucking annoying. Seriously. Anyway, chapter 6, the last chapter of Afternoon of the Gosling. A bank of clouds hovered above the mountains, wandering Eugene. The customary greenness of the hills was gone. The fir-covered mountains appeared almost black in the increasing shadows as the clouds grew darker and more threatening. The valley was surrounded by clouds, the valley of the shadow of death. Wilma shivered and wondered why she had thought of those words. The air felt moist on her face, as if rain might start at any second. She hurried down the sidewalk, ignoring the maple leaves that tore loose from their branches and assaulted her face. A crumpled paper bag rattled past her on the sidewalk and came to rest in a bed of heather. She dodged a slow-moving, bearded young man, dressed in a pair of cut-off jeans, and wondered how he kept warm. The mere threat of the first September storm had chilled.
Me, please.
Thank. Oh my god. Thank you for the sub. Thank you. Even though I'm such a mess right now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't know. I have to laugh every time I hear that. That's so good. The mere threat of the first September storm had chilled her into wearing a ski jacket. She darted across the street, clutching the jacket collar around her throat, hurrying to get home before Cerise and Matt arrived home from school. The wind swept ahead of her, clearing the long circular drive of brown-tipped lawn clippings. It tore at her skirt all the way up the brick walk to the massive front door. It dominates the front of the house, all mahogany panels and wrought iron hardware, like entering a castle. After the parsonage, the large colonial house was too spacious. It didn't feel like home. It was Phil's entertainment center. Let Phil enjoy his toy. She was going to do something, not just open doors and usher people to Phil's office. Even before she took off her jacket, she pulled the sheaf of papers out of her purse, held them for a minute, and then tucked them into her dresser drawer under the brass. It wasn't sneaky, at least, not yet. First, she would tell Phil about the courses, adult courses, to get a high school diploma. There were lots of people like her. Already the class was on remedial reading. Remedial reading had 20 people enrolled, 21 including herself. And the advisor had taken so much time to explain everything. She was going to take the classes with Phil's permission or without it. She had already wasted too much time. She had already wasted too much time. By the time they had finished moving, school was out and both children were at home. Now, with both of them back in school, she had lots of extra time. The morning classes wouldn't interfere with anything. Phil was too busy to notice whether she was home or not. Too busy? Some days Cerise saw more of Phil than she did. She hurried towards the kitchen and glanced at the new dining room drapes. Maybe they were too long, but after 3 hemmings, they were going to stay that length. She wasn't going to do them over. Cerise and Phil could hem the darn things themselves if they wanted them above the windowsill instead of covering it. Cerise and Phil. Cerise would probably laugh at the idea of her mother going to school. She couldn't argue with both of them at once. She would talk to Phil before Cerise came home. Settle it with Phil first. Cerise's opinion didn't matter. Why was she building this resentment of her own daughter? Was she losing control over the girl? She shook the feeling aside and went upstairs. She hardly ever went down to Phil's office until the plans for Phil's center became a reality. The daylight basement was converted into his office. He called it an office, but a meeting room was more like it. It was seldom she could talk to Phil alone. Too often he was with someone. Mr. Blaylock, his backer, with his pompous reference to Phil's little woman. Ted Gower, loud and boorish. Or Cerise, pestering Phil with her homework. For once he was alone on the phone, but no one else was in the large room. The burgundy velour carpet was as plush as the carpeting upstairs in the living room, and Phil didn't even hear her. She walked across the room to the window and stood looking into the backyard. He was tilted back in his car, papers strewn across the desk. Wilma only half listened. From Phil's comments, he was evidently making plans, discussing a television program. His plans were moving too fast. He couldn't keep up with them. First, the radio programs, he taped those ahead. Now television. The Ted Gower guy had found a sponsor, and Phil was going to carry his sermons to every home in the Eugene area. Ted was already talking about getting it on a network station. Too many things were happening. She looked out at the fading hydrangea bushes and wondered if they should get some chicken manure from Clara Thayer. But Phil probably wouldn't have time. He hadn't even been up to visit his mother since the move to Eugene. The receiver clicked and she heard the squeak of Phil's swivel chair. "Did you hear that, honey?" She turned as he leaned back in his chair and stretched both arms above his head, clasping and shaking his hand in a victory salute. "The television program is set. Ted signed all the contracts this morning. Every Sunday morning we have our half hour." "That's nice, Phil," she said, but she couldn't find any real enthusiasm. Phil seems to have ideas as often as he used the telephone. All he talked about since the move to Eugene was his latest idea, his latest project, ideas or Mr. Blaylock. "Nice?" He swung forward in his chair and started assembling his papers into neat stacks. "Nice. It's a gigantic step. Can you imagine how many people will reach with television? Ted thinks we may be able to syndicate the show." "Syndicate?" She looked at him with confusion. Syndicate it. Sell it to independent stations all over the country. And you know, Ted came up with a great idea for opening the show. He began by setting the stacks of papers into neat rows. We'll open with candelabra. Cerise will be behind the candles, lighting them one by one. What a dramatic effect. Cerise in white candles. Phil, no, don't use Cerise. He looked at her with a puzzled frown. Why not? She's getting too much attention now. It's not good for her age. Phil settled back into his chair and his face sobered. For a few minutes he gazed at Wilma as if seriously considering her objection. Then he shrugged. It's hardly going to make a lot of difference. Ted's planned on using the same opening every week. We only have to take the shot one time. They'll reuse the same film clip. Wilma braced her back against the window. The coldness of the glass against her spine had a stealing effect. But she'll be seen by all those viewers every week. People are bound to make a fuss about her. Wilma, it's not as if she's going to be on television. She's going to be a television star. One shot, action shot, no more. He swung the chair back and forth as he talked, his foot nudging the desk with every swing. It won't hurt anything. Yes, it can. Wilma pushed herself away from the glass and dropped into the large leather upholstered chair facing Phil's desk. Even the chair had been purchased specially for Phil's important visitors, the ones with money. She never sat on it before. Odd. Phil hadn't bought a new desk. The desk had looked so big in the pleasant home parsonage. Now, in this huge room, it's way too small. He needed a new desk. Cerise is letting this go to her head, she said. All she has done is the candle lighting at the services. She doesn't even stay for the service, you know that. She lights the candles, scurries home after the first hymn. Scurries home with some boy tagging along beside her. She's too young for all this, Phil. It's hardly some boy, Wilma. Phil's mouth pulled back at the corners. His teeth clenched for a second before he relaxed. The calm, poised smile was back. I make certain not just anyone walks her home. I asked Bobby Blaylock. I asked Bobby Blaylock and he walks her home every night. Not just anyone, Wilma. Harry Blaylock's son. He's 15 years old, Phil, and Cerise. She stopped and squirmed. How could she explain the look she saw in Cerise's eyes? Phil would only say it was her imagination. The quick flicker of her eyelashes when she looked at Bobby Blaylock. Cerise prances like she just starred in a movie. She doesn't act like a girl who merely went in and lit the candles for church service. She's only a child, Wilma. And for that matter, so is Bobby. He's 15, Phil. 15 is old enough to think about sex. Believe me, I know. Phil flashed his most persuasive grin. Damn him. He was buttering her up, smiling at her the same way he smiled at Harry Blaylock. Honey, Cerise probably does put too much emphasis on herself. It's sort of a childish fairy tale. She imagines it to be a lot more important than it is. It's her first touch of glamour. She's feeling like Cinderella. Who's Cinderella? Wilma frowned when Phil chuckled at her question. Sorry, honey, I forgot your parents weren't the sort who read you classic fairy tales. A scullery maid who became a princess and won the handsome prince. Wilma continued to frown. You also forget, I never had parents at all, Phil. At least not real ones. She looked up at him, and the worry kept gnawing at her stomach. Cerise acts as if Bobby Blaylock were her prince, all right. Phil's smile became softer. Don't worry. Bobby Blaylock is a good Christian boy. He would never do anything Harry Blaylock would disapprove of. Believe me. Harry is a strict father, and I trust Bobby. He swung back and forth in his swivel chair again, and the smile became more gentle. Anyhow, Cerise is still a baby. A baby? Phil, in case you haven't noticed, I had to remake her white dress. She burst out of the seams in the bust line, and now I have to lengthen it by 3 inches. She's taller than I am now. Phil only lifted his shoulders in an unconcerned gesture. She's one of those girls who develop early. It doesn't mean that she's an adult. She's only a schoolgirl. So are the girls at the community college, and a lot of the schoolgirls are carrying babies around the campus. Well, I haven't been watching the local co-eds, Wilma. I have. I was over there this afternoon. He looked across the desk at her, with his eyebrows drawn together, 2 lines pulled across his forehead. Why? It'll be a long time before Cerise is ready for college. She's only in junior high. I wasn't thinking about Cerise. I went there for myself. For yourself? He repeated. His forehead creased even deeper. What do you mean for yourself? You never even finished high school. You don't need to rub it in, Phil. The tone of his voice scratched at her resolve. She took a deep breath and braced herself in the chair. I spent the time with an advisor. She says that I can take continuing education courses for adults. Vilma said the words slowly, exactly as the advisor had said them to her. I can take the test, a GED test, and get a high school diploma. Or something like that. Don't be silly. You don't need a high school diploma. You won't be any smarter. It's not that I need one, Philip. I want one. Don't call me Philip. You sound like my mother. She stared at him without wavering. He wasn't going to make her back down. Maybe he was right. She might not become any smarter, but she would feel smarter. Smart enough not to sneer at anyone who wanted to learn. The next thing you know, you'll start acting like my mother, he said. That is not fair, Phil. I'm nothing like your mother, and you know it. Phil crumpled a piece of paper in one hand and rolled it back and forth between his fingers, and started tearing at the edges. I don't know anything of the kind. All my life, it was don't argue, Philip. I know you more than you, Philip. I was a school teacher, Philip. He sent the wad of paper flying into the wastebasket. I don't want a wife who brags about how much she knows. I want to make the rules, not listen to them. Well, I certainly can't brag now, can I? She stifled a nervous laugh. As if I want a high school diploma, not a whole college education. All I want is a high school diploma, not a whole college education. It's out of the question. You have a home to run, children to take care of. You can't do it. Lots of students have children. Lots of people in the adult education courses are older. Some of them are even older than me. Phil shook his head, paused, and shook it again. You have too much to do at home. I do not. I can go mornings while the kids are in school. He got up and leaned against the desk and then began to walk slowly back and forth, always behind the desk, pacing, as he often did during his sermons. Tight, wired movements, the corners of his mouth flexing while he thought. He stopped, put his hands on the desk, and lifted his chin. When he looked into her eyes, his face had a perplexed lift to the eyebrows. I don't know. I don't think the Blaylock would approve. Who cares? The eyes were dull. No sparkle in them now. Phil shook his head again. Honey, Harry Blaylock is the entire key to succeeding. He won't approve of my wife going to school. You always said that I wasn't a minister. You were. You said I didn't have to go to the church stuff. Why should what I do make any difference to Harry Blaylock? Blaylock is old-fashioned as my mother. He decided to back my ventures because of my family. Our family? Wilma's eyebrow lifted, and she caught the edge of the chair, digging her fingernails into the leather padding. Phil flopped back into his chair and propped his elbows on the desk. For a long time, he rubbed his temples with the tips of his fingers and stared down at the stacks of papers in front of him. Wilma caught the flash of his gold cuff links and scowled. They were exactly like Ted Gower's. Phil never used to wear cuff links like this. Blaylock believes in a solid family, a dedicated mother taking care of the house. He believes working women are ruining the traditional family. I am not going to work, Phil. School, that's all. School. And I'm doing it while the children are gone. A fingernail cracked under the pressure of her hand and she winced. What does Mr. Blaylock's wife do while their kids are gone? Gossip on the phone? I suppose that's okay with Mr. Blaylock. She snorted, examined the cracked fingernails, and pushed it back into position. It was split to the quick and it hurt. Funny, Mr. Blaylock hadn't gripped about her long nails. Would Phil tell her to cut them off if she did? She had a growing suspicion that Phil would make the request. He would make the whole family into vegetarian if it would please Harry Blaylock. Well, I think his wife does toad painting. Phil's head lifted with a gleam in his eyes. Why don't you take one of those courses in cake decorating or tailoring? Something domestic. Blaylock would approve. He would still consider us the ideal family. He leaned back in his chair and gave her a long, appraising look. He really thinks that we have an ideal marriage, Wilma. I can't have him doubt it. The ideal family doesn't have a dummy for a mother, she snapped. It really came down to Blaylock's money. Phil was so damn afraid of losing the money he didn't care about her feelings, only Blaylock's opinion. To hell with both of them. She was going to get her diploma. Wilma, I never call you a dummy. She jerked her head up and glared at him. You might as well. Telling Cerise to bring her homework to you, telling me not to talk too much. Cerise acts as if I don't know anything. I can't help her with her homework. All I'm good for is sewing her clothes and fixing the meals. She looked away, sensing her tears getting close to the surface. She wasn't going to cry. Phil wouldn't understand. He had never understood the tears were from anger. He moved so quickly across the carpet that she jerked with surprise when his hands caught her shoulders. He slid one hand under her chin and forced him to look at her through the blur. Honey, those things, cooking and sewing, they are important. You can teach Cerise how to cook. Who says Cerise is interested? The haze of tears started to clear. She stared back into his wide, pleading eyes. She's a girl. All girls are interested in housework. She shook his hands off her shoulders in one swift move and pushed herself out of the chair. There weren't any tears left, only a surging anger, an anger that made her clench her fists as she spun away from him and started towards the stairs. Sometimes, Phil, you are a damn fool. Wilma! Let her be shocked over her language. Too bad old Blaylock wasn't around. Cake decorating? He caught up with her when she started upstairs, catching her and whirling her around to face him from the second step and stared directly into his face. Funny how much more human Phil looked when she wasn't staring up at him. She kept her looks on his without blinking. The damn fool was right. He might not like the language, but it fit. Cake decorating when she wanted to learn important things. Wilma. She continued to stare at him until his hands slowly loosened. She waited, watching the red anger of his face gradually fade. I'm sorry, Wilma. I know I can't see the side of yours, but everything hinges on Harry Blaylock. If he even suspected you used the word damn, he would wash his hands off me and the whole project. She clamped her lips together and glared. He wasn't getting an apology, not ever. Wilma, Harry Blaylock thinks that you are a quiet homemaker who reads the Bible to her youngsters. She comments on how comfortable you have made our home. How you are always here when he comes by. How can I explain when you are not here? Especially when he thinks the college are full of degenerates and drug addicts. She smiled and lifted her chin. It was so much easier now she didn't have to look up. She was on his level now, and it made her feel a surge of willpower. Tell him the truth, Phil. Tell him I'm learning to read. I can't hardly sit around reading the Bible when I can't read well enough to understand it. She pushed his hands away gently, but with firmness he must understand. Tell Mr. Blaylock whatever you like. Her voice was cracking at the high notes. She hated the unsteady sounds of her words. I'm going to take the courses. She looked into his eyes, turned, and braced her shoulders as she went upstairs. There was nothing but quiet behind her. The argument was over, whether Phil understood it or not. She had made up her mind. Phil, she still had her fist clenched with determination when she stepped into the kitchen. The refrigerator door was open, and Cerise groped among those contents. She turned her head and smiled through a wisp of her long blonde hair. Hey, Mom, what's for snack? Wilma flexed her fingers and opened her hands. Was Cerise's blouse too low cut, or was it only her half-bent position? Matt took the last of the cookies, Cerise grumbled. I can't find anything else. Well, fix yourself a peanut butter sandwich, or learn how to cook, Wilma snapped. She walked on through the kitchen. Damned if she was going to worry about snacks now. Oh, and wipe that lipstick off, she ordered as she reached the kitchen's doorway. Daddy Phil says that I could wear lipstick when I started junior high. Cerise's head shot up over the refrigerator door. Her eyes were wide and startled. He didn't say you could put it on like a house paint. You look like a clown, Wilma retorted. Blot it off so it looks natural, or you'll shock your daddy Phil's precious Harry Blaylock. She sent Cerise one last angry look and went on through the house. Matt barely glanced at her when she passed him. He stayed curled in a chair with his reader and a handful of cookies. He gave her only a quick smile before she went into her bedroom and headed for the dresser. The enrollment papers. She took them out and looked at them with a gush of elation. She was going to school. Phil might not like it, but she would stick to her decision. Nothing could make her back down now. She pushed them into the far corner of the drawer and shoved all her bras all over them before she leaned against the dresser and trembled. The trembling developed into a complete case of shakes. What was happening to their marriage? Was it Clara Thayer's iron rule or Harry Blaylock's money that made Phil so stubborn? She sat down on the edge of the bed and waited until the trembling stopped. Phil would find some story for Blaylock. She knew that much. But would Phil forgive her for standing up and deciding something for herself? He had to. She wasn't going to give him any choice. He would learn. After she was in school, he would see it wouldn't affect their family, except for the best. She would read to Matt like she wanted to read to Kathleen. Phil watched Wilma ascend the stairs and felt the bottom of his stomach disintegrate. It was the square set of her shoulders even more than her defiant stares. Wilma had never argued with him. He had the bewildering sensation of being in the middle of a maze. Which way was his deck? Is my cat making sounds? Give me a moment, okay? I'll check on my cat. Kitty is fine. Kitty is outside. Oh my god. I'm still not used to seeing my stream is so incomplete. Okay, Kitty just followed me in. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Alright, let's see. Okay. Let's continue. Yeah, I did. I took up something to cover it up. Don't worry. And he's sitting on my lap now for a while. Alright, let's see. Let's go. Phil watched Wilma ascend the stairs and felt the bottom of his stomach disintegrate. It was the square set of her shoulders even more than her defiant stares. Wilma had never argued with him. He had the bewildering sensation of being in the middle of a maze. Which way was his desk? He found his way across the room by instinct and dropped into his chair. Wilma. Pain started to spread through his stomach. Was this was this what an ulcer felt like? The chair was a haven, a smooth a smooth wooden arm cave. He leaned against the cushion, letting his hand fall limply over the sides. None of it was true, or more than only partially true. It wasn't Blaylock or Clara. It wasn't Blaylock or Clara. Sorry. Distracted. It was Wilma. He didn't want her to change. It was so childlike. Wilma. It was the childlike Wilma he wanted. The white eyes, so often frightened. The child who hung on to him, needed him. He couldn't balance a checkbook, couldn't support herself. She needed him. She never demanded anything, only asked with those innocent blue eyes that looked as if everything depended on his answer. That look now is gone. He hadn't even attended school yet. Once he got the diploma, it would never come back. Once he kept trying on new things for herself. The little girl, the vulnerable Wilma, all he wanted to was to shelter her from the world. He didn't need anything else. Why did she want to change? It was his own fault. The pain began to spread up into his chest. He shouldn't have been so soft-hearted. It was the tubal ligation. He shouldn't have agreed to it. Those big pleading eyes. He signed the papers without thinking. Wilma was such a perfect mother. He should have expected this. They should have more children. She needed children. If they could have another baby, she wouldn't be considering this nonsense. His head drooped against his chest. She had been different since Kathleen's death. Not going to church, she hardly ever went. Only here in Eugene, and only because he had told her how important it was for appearances. She went, but there wasn't any joy in it. She never smiled, she never sang, said that she couldn't read all the words in the hymnals. She bent his head and tried to find some comfort in praying, but nothing came. His head was filled with nothing. He didn't hear Cerise, and didn't sense her approach. Couldn't sense her approach. He felt the movement of his chair first, and then the weight of her body as she sat on the arm of the chair and leaned against his shoulder. What's Mom so crabby about? She's a real bear.
A strand of her hair tickled his ear when she wiggled into a better position. She's mad at me, not you. He stared out the window and said the words almost automatically. As mad as Wilma was, there wasn't any way to keep this argument hidden from the kids, especially Cerise with her inquisitive mind. Cerise popped the last of the sandwich into her mouth and licked at her fingers. He caught the heavy scent of peanut butter. You will ruin your dinner eating sandwiches so late in the afternoon. Well, Matt took the cookies. She took one final lick in her index finger and rested her head on his shoulder. Just as well. You'll ruin your complexion if you just keep eating. Sorry? If you keep eating so many cookies. She giggled against his ear. Whatever I do, something will get ruined. Her body slid off the arm of the chair and into his lap. As she twisted her head around to fit into the hollow of his shoulder, Phil looked down. The front of Cerie's blouse gaped open, and he saw the soft swell of her breast. Pink! Or was it a reflection of the red material? The flesh was full and soft as Wilma's. She twisted again, swinging her legs across his. Her hip rubbed against him and sent a surge of excitement rising up. He felt the tingling, then the erection. Cerise giggled and wiggled a little harder. Mad silly! Phil felt beads of perspiration rising on his forehead. He had tried to ignore what was happening. He clenched on one hand on the arm of the chair. If he pushed her away, she would wonder why. He decided to control it, act normal. He asked me if I was going to marry Bobby Blaylock. Phil took a long, slow breath. It might have been funny if he wasn't feeling such a strong physical attraction. What was wrong with him? You are too young to be thinking about marriage, Cerise. Too young to even think about it. Not too young to think about it, Daddy Phil. He thought that he detected a faint tone of amusement in her voice. He must be imagining it. This conversation wasn't funny at all. I'm only too young to do anything about it, she added and rubbed her head against his chest. You're only a baby, Cerise, and so is Bobby Blaylock. I don't want to hear any more talk about marriage. Not at your age. Age? He wondered if age had anything to do with the way he was growing his fury in his groin. Wilma was right. The girl was growing up too fast. He wasn't going to have her get married before she finished school. Cerise would be. She already was a great asset to his evangelism. Sometimes he thought she might follow him into the ministry. Marriage? He wanted to grab her and hold her, but the sensuality of her body held him rigid against the back of the chair. He had not felt like this since the first time he had seen Wilma. This must be a reaction. The fight with Wilma. It was only a reaction. It was Wilma that he wanted, and his body was reacting to Cerise. It had to be the solution. A man didn't last after his own daughter. Cerise brushed her cheek against his chest and patted him with one hand. Don't worry, Daddy Phil. I would never marry Bobby Blaylock. He's too dumb. Her fingers twisted at the bottom on his shirt, and he reached up and moved her hand away. She giggled softly and tossed her head back, looking up at him from under the darkened lashes. Do you know Bobby Blaylock didn't even know what the word fuck meant? She tossed her head again, and the blonde hair swirled around her shoulders. Phil let his mouth fall open and choke as he forced the shock back into his throat. His voice started to crack. He had been sounding like Wilma if he didn't get himself under control. He cleared his throat and tried to act as if Cerise had not startled him at all. I'm surprised you know an obscenity like that, Cerise. I'm even more shocked to hear that you used the word. She shifted her weight and stretched her legs. Phil fought an urge to dump her on the floor. He had to stop this. She was getting too old to sit on his lap. Well, I don't use the word Daddy Phil. It's on all the bathroom walls at school. A person has to be really dumb if they ask if they don't ask what it means. Phil looked down at her, wondering how she knew Bobby Blaylock hadn't understood the meaning. The slide of her curved breast flashed in front of him, and he decided not to ask, at least not now. He's afraid to know the answer. Mr. Blaylock is right, Phil said. He had already made Wilma mad. Now, he is forced to be the stern parent. The school are corrupting our children. The sooner we start the church-oriented school, the better. I don't want you to be associating with anyone who uses words like that. And I don't want you to be using it. He slid one arm around her and shook her shoulder until she turned her head up toward him. Don't be mad, Daddy Phil. He lowered her eyelashes, smiled. I'm not going to marry any of those dumb guys. When I grow up, I'm going to marry you. Phil let his hand fall back to the arm of the chair and tried not to laugh. Poor little daydreamer. Cerise, you cannot marry me. I'm your father. She shrugged and the mouth drew together at the corners. You're not really my father. We're not really related at all, so I can, too, marry you. Cerise. This time he couldn't hold back a small chuckle. I'm an old man compared to you, and a married man at that. People don't stay married. One of the girls in my class had 4 different fathers. She tightened her arms around him as if she was trying to crush herself against him. I intend to stay married, Cerise. Divorce is a sin. One more thing this public school don't teach. She was silent, and Phil began to feel the renewed stirring of his reaction. He was losing control of the situation. He pushed her away from his chest and turned his eyes quickly toward the window. Her blouse! No wonder she could see so much of her breast. Cerise, your blouse is coming undone. Button it up. She peered up at him from one corner of her eye. The smile was so fleeting. Phil wasn't positive he had seen it. You must have homework to do. He gave her a slight push, afraid to touch her with more than one hand on the back. And I have to work on a sermon. She lingered beside his chair, swinging his hips from side to side. He pulled one of the stacks of paper towards him to avoid meeting her eyes. The printed words made no sense. The fire in his guts was taking command. He stared at the paper and felt nauseated. It was wrong. Cerise leaned forward. Her fingers rested on his shoulder and she kissed him on the forehead. Her breast pushed against his arm and he could feel the hard nipples through the cloth. She moved and her breast slid across his arm. Her hair swept across his cheek, sending an electrical tingle shooting down into his shoulder. His hand tightened on the papers. Cerise! He caught himself before he started shouting, but Cerise was moving across the room towards the stair. He leaned back into the chair and took a long, slow breath. The papers shook in his hand. He dropped them as if they had come to life. The walk! Even her walk had a provocativeness. He hadn't noticed now how fluid her movements were. No wonder Wilma was worried about Cerise. Why had not he noticed? He shoved the chair away from the desk and stared down at the shadows on the carpet. His day was like the swirling streak in the pile, twisting endlessly in different directions. Why? Why this physical attraction for Cerise? It was sick. He must be sick. Did this happen to other men? For the first time he wished he had known this. He had known his father. Had someone to ask, how did men react? Oh Lord, forgive me. The words ripped out of his chest. The guilt. He hung his head and prayed for forgiveness. What he felt for Cerise, his reaction to her body, it was sinful. He couldn't let it happen again. He put his hands over his face and prayed. He was weak. It was a weakness in his nature. It wasn't Cerise. She was only an innocent child, too young to know what she was doing. He was the one who needed help. Cerise stopped at the top of the stairs and looked at her reflection in the window. Daddy Phil was right. Too many cookies could give her pimples, or even worse, she might get fat like a homeroom teacher or like Miss Wilford back in Pleasant Home. Matt could have all the cookies. She fixed another peanut butter sandwich. The kitchen was empty, and Mother hadn't even started fixing dinner. One more peanut butter sandwich wouldn't hurt. She walked into the living room and leaned over Matt's chair. Her mouth was against his ears. She smacked her lips and blew his breath into his face. See, Smarty, I found something better than cookies. He pushed her face away with one hand and shook some crumbs off his books. Make me one. Make it yourself like I did. Matt looked at her, and Cerise grinned. He could look so sad. Serve him right for taking all the cookies. I can't reach the shelf. It's easier for you. Nope. She took a small bite and chewed it as loudly as she could. Mommy won't like you eating sandwiches before dinner. She told me I could since you ate all the cookies. Cerise retorted and flopped on the davenport. She chucked the last of the sandwich into her mouth and dug under the cushion for the candy bar she had hidden there. The crackling of the paper made Matt turn and stare. His eyes popped up, open so wide he looked as if she had stuck him with a pin. She giggled at the thought. Where'd you get that candy? He raised up in his chair and the book fell on the floor. God gave it to me. Cerise took a bite and closed her eyes. You're not supposed to tell lies. God doesn't give people candy bars. She continued to chew on the caramel-filled treat. I'm special. God does things for me. You're telling lies. Daddy won't like it. I'm not telling lies. She peeled the wrapper back farther. Well, maybe about the candy bar, but not about God doing things just for me. She broke off one end of the candy bar, held it out, and then hesitated. I'll give you some, but you better not tell Daddy Phil, or I'll have God fix you good. Matt grabbed at the piece of candy and sank back into his chair. You can't. It will be you that get fixed. Daddy will fix you for telling lies. But I'll have God fix you even worse. Cerise wadded the candy wrapper into a small ball and tossed it up in the air. She lowered her eyelashes and squinted at Matt as she caught the wad of paper. You're telling more lies. Matt reached for his books and turned his head away. Well, okay, Smarty, she answered. Hey! Hi, Isabel! Welcome back. Okay, Smarty, she answered. You wait and see. I know how to pray better than other people, and when I pray really hard, God will do what I ask him to. If you are not careful, I'll have God fix you. You're lying! Matt picked up the book and clamped his mouth into a stubborn line. Yeah, well, Eddie Carter got fixed when I asked God to fix him, didn't he? Matt looked over the edge of his book and began to wiggle down into a coiled lump. His eyes were wide, and his mouth drew up into a scared pucker. Cerise tossed the candy wrapper into the fireplace. He was about to cry, and if he cried, Mother would be asking questions why. I won't do it to you, Matt, unless you make me mad. His lower lip trembled. Promise? She got up and stretched. Well... She looked carefully at him without smiling and watched him carefully. He looked as if he believed her. Okay, I promised, but don't tell about the candy bar. Matt shook his head and scrunched back into his chair. I won't tell, Cerise. Honest, I won't. Okay, she yawned. I'm going to do my homework. Call me When Mom had supper ready, she picked up her books and carried them into her room, where she dumped them on the end of her bed. She didn't have very much homework. She could read her history in about 20 minutes. What she wanted to do was think. If she didn't want to bother with Matt, Daddy Phil thought it was funny, but she really did want to marry him. She would be a lot better than Mother. Mother didn't like going to the meetings. She crossed her legs and sat on the bed, staring at the wall. Should she pray about it or not? If Mother died, then Daddy Phil wouldn't wouldn't be married anymore. If it wasn't the same as divorce at all. Still, Mother had not done anything really wrong. Would God answer her prayers? Eddie Carter had called her a lizard. She had been bossy and mean. Kathleen screamed. They deserved to be punished. But Mother, she hasn't done anything except being crabby. Daddy Phil said that God wouldn't answer prayers if they were selfish prayers or bad prayers. He only answered prayers when they should be answered. If Mother was supposed to go to heaven, then God would answer the prayer. Then there would be only Daddy Phil and herself. She could go to all the services with Daddy Phil. She could sleep in the same bed with Daddy Phil and smell his shaving lotion and feel his strong arm around her. There would be only Daddy Phil and Matt. Who would take care of Matt? She didn't want to be stuck taking care of Matt. She still had to be watched in the bathtub, or he wouldn't rinse the soap out of his hair or scrub his neck. Maybe Daddy Phil would hire someone to take care of Matt, but maybe Daddy would marry someone else before she was old enough to marry him. Better wait. How old did she have to be to get married? Mother didn't usually know anything, but she had gotten married. She must have known something about it. She opened her eyes and uncoiled from her cross-legged position. It would be better to wait and pray about Mother later. If she do it too soon, Daddy Phil wouldn't marry her. How old did she have to be? When she went into the living room, Matt was still crunched up in the large chair. His eyelids flickered and then he turned back to his book as if he didn't want to see her. There were changing noises coming from the kitchen. Get busy and set the table. Wilma snapped snapped when Cerise came into the kitchen. The spoon banged against the saucepan in the furious circling of the content. The kitchen was heavy in the aroma of corn muffins and ham. Right? She was still crabby. Cerise opened a drawer without arguing and started picking out the silverware. Mother, how old do you have to be to get married? She gathered up the last 4 spoons and took out 4 placemats from the next drawer. A lot older than you are, Wilma grumbled. I know that, Mother, but how old? Cerise insisted. 16 if your parents are okay with it. 18 if they don't. The spoon banged even harder, and Wilma slammed the lid on the pan with a resounding clatter. That's old, Cerise groaned. It's not old. Wilma reached for a pot holder and opened the oven door. The scent of ham mushroomed out in a cloud of steam and filled the room. It's too young, and you're too young to even ask about it. Get those things on the table. Cerise stopped in the doorway. What if your parents are dead? Who gives permissions? Who knows? Wilma answered. She grabbed another pot holder and lifted the pan out onto the stovetop. Anyhow, you have to finish school and... She paused, glaring at the roaster pan as if it were an unwelcome bug. And you better learn to cook. Cerise lifted her eyebrows. Her mother was mad at everything. She had her fists doubled up as if she was ready to fight with the ham. Maybe Mother was getting sick. Anybody can cook, Mother. If they can read a cookbook, it's simple. A dummy could do it. The pot holder missed her head and bounced off the wall. Set the table, now! Okay, I'm going. Cerise frowned. Mother looked as if she was going to cry. She put the silverware on the placemats and bit her lip. Either Either Mother was getting real sick or the fight with Daddy Phil was serious. Her lips patted and the corners of her mouth turned up. Maybe she wouldn't have to ask God for help at all. Mother didn't act as if she was going to get over being mad at Daddy Phil for a long time. She went after the plates and was careful to avoid getting in her mother's path. God would work things out. She wouldn't have to pray unless it was absolutely necessary, not for a couple years at least. Her hands stroked the placemat and she readjusted the silverware beside Daddy Phil's plate. Why did they keep telling her that she was too young? Too young to stay late at Daddy Phil's services? Too young to think about boys or sex or marriage? She was old enough for a lot of things. Daddy Phil could see how old she was getting. She hummed to herself as she went back for the glasses. It was going to be a long, mad series, decided. No one said anything during supper. Daddy Phil had even mumbled the words when she said grace, and Mother had only closed her eyes. She didn't bow her head at all. And they had not looked at each other either, but Daddy Phil hadn't looked at anyone. Cerise finished stacking the dishes and started scraping the plates. 16. She would have to wait a long time. It was too long. Maybe a couple of years. Daddy Phil could make love to her even if she wasn't old enough to get married. He wanted to. She could tell. He looked down her blouse the same way Bobby Blaylock did. She'd have to find a way to show Daddy Phil that she was old enough to think about marriage and making love. He couldn't sleep. The sick feeling in his stomach, the ache in his chest. He tried hard to pray, but the guilt kept blocking his words. In the dark, he could still feel Cerie's nipples sliding across his arm, see the breast bulging under her blouse, and he couldn't stop it. It kept coming back, nor could he relieve it. Worse, he couldn't excuse it, not to himself, not to God. Wilma lay motionless beside him, too motionless, no sound of her regular breathing. She was awake too, awake with her back to him, rigid. Phil stared up in the darkness, started to reach to her, and then put his hand back under the covers. She would only pull away if he touched her. He couldn't talk to God. He had to talk to Wilma. Wilma, I'm sorry. She shifted uneasily. The room remained silent. Wilma, at least let me talk to you. Why? So I can admit that I was wrong. He released a long breath and paused. I was wrong about a lot of things. No movements. But he could feel the rigidness of her body ease in the spring of the bed. She was listening. Choose the words cautiously. No blunders now. I was wrong about what you are trying to do, and mostly about Cerise. Alright. Yes, kitty. Yes? What you want? I was wrong about what you're trying to do, and mostly about Cerise. The mattress moved. She had shifted her position. He waited until she moved again and turned onto her back. She had not moved towards him, but she had softened enough to listen. She's acting too adult. I'm going to quit having her light the candles on the weeknight services. I'll have one of the older girls. More participations would be better for the congregation. He found himself amazed at his own thoughts. It was a good idea. Cerise wouldn't be walking home with the Blaylock boy. What if the Blaylock boy wasn't as innocent as he looked? If Cerise had the same effect on young Blaylock, he didn't want anyone to... Cerise was his. He caught his breath. Jealous. He was jealous of the Blaylock boy? What about school? I'm going too, Phil. Her voice sounded flat and toneless in the darkness. All right, I'll get used to the idea. He turned and reached for her. He had to understand. She had to understand. Wilma, I can't help it. I'm afraid that you will change. The words broke loose as he buried his face between her soft, warm breast. I don't want you to change. Don't want you to be different. Her arms was warm and comforting around his shoulder. So gentle. Tears came into his eyes. I love you the way you are, Wilma. Her fingers twisted in his hair and slid down to the back of his neck. He stroked his earlobe, circling behind his ear with the tip of his finger. Her lips murmured into his hair until he raised his head and closed his mouth against over hers. He rolled her hips upward against him. The ache in his stomach was gone. He reached one hand to under the soft fleshiness of her bottom and pulled her against him. Was Okay, wait. I need to censor all this. Wilma, okay. Phil! Wilma's voice caught in his ear. He couldn't hold it back any longer. He plunged into the openness of Wilma and felt the desire, the lust for Cerise, shoot out. It left him in one long burst, and he felt drained and panting against Wilma's shoulder. She continued to stroke his hair and hold him as he clung onto her. Wilma, forgive me, please. He whispered the words, but would it be enough? She didn't know. Oh God. She mustn't know how much she was forgiving. The kiss on his forehead was the answer, but it wasn't an absolution. What was he going to do about Cerise? He couldn't avoid her. What are you going to do with Cerise? Wilma's words sent a chill across his shoulders. Did she know what turmoil was going on in his mind? He lay stiff and tense, trying to figure out what she meant. What was he going to do? I mean television program. Are you still going to use her? His shoulders muscles relaxed out. He had already forgotten that part of the argument. I think so, but we'll shoot it here at the house. Here? Wilma's hands stopped stroking him. He rolled away from her and let his body melt into the comfort of relaxation. He could think now, think of the possibility. In the family room, set the candles, then shoot the sermon by the fireplace. We want to make them informal chats. Better place for the filming anyhow. Wilma rolled over against him. I still think it's too much attention. It will make up for her not going to the weeknight services. She'll fuss about it, but at least she won't walk home by a 15-year-old boy. Weekends, she can do it. She come home with me on weekends. His arms tightened about Wilma's shoulders. You're right, Cerise, honey. She's not a little girl anymore. Was she ever? Wilma yawned. Her breathing stared into a deep rhythmic pattern of sleep. Wilma lay in solitude trying to pray, but the words still wouldn't come. He had to find the strength somewhere. It wasn't strength, it's evasion that he found. He shut himself off, writing sermons, planning the television programs, scheduling his conferences with Ted Gower for late afternoon, pushing his chair so tightly against the desk that Cerise couldn't climb into his lap. She had to be content by rubbing her head against his shoulder. He buried his head in his hand after he left the room. She accepted the no weeknight services ultimatum with only a shrug of her shoulder and a long, penetrating stare. A stare that made him bend his head and try to pray away the guilt without success. He redoubled his conferences and crammed his daily schedule until the first videotaping of the television program was set. The basement was packed with cameras, lighting equipment, sound camera, and cables crisscrossing on the floor. The candelabra was set in one corner, and the shot to be taken before they started taping the 4 15-minute segments of Phil's talks. Phil checked his reflection in the mirror and took a long, exhilarating breath. This was it. The charged excitement. He surveyed the room from the stairs and grinned. Ted Gower, the sponsor's wife, and the Blaylocks, they were all his family. Even Wilma was holding Matt and waiting for the taping to begin. She smiled at him across the room, and he felt warmly encouraged. Maybe school was good for her. It felt good having her there. The cameramen were finishing with Cerise, and then the lights were positioned around his desk. Ted Gower was serving as a stand-in. The table was set up for the after-filming party. Wilma had laid out a buffet that would have them all dieting for a week. Mrs. Blaylock had asked Wilma to help out at her next dinner party. There were at least 7 people from the film crew. The room was jammed. It was another innovation. He was making progress faster than he expected. It would succeed. The final 15-minute segment was an appeal for funds to start a school. Blaylock would be proud. Cerise would have a decent school to attend. She would be a normal child. He glanced across the room. Behind the candles, she was only a small girl. Nothing stirred. He had worked himself out of his personal crisis. On top of it, in control again. He moved through the crowd room toward the fireplace. This would make the state wake up. What altar calls he would have after this program started on the air. Okay, Reverend Thayer, we are almost ready. He settled into the chair and turned towards the camera. It's good, kid. You can go. The lights swung away from Cerise and went out. She blew out the lighting taper and blinked to readjust her vision to the room light. The lights were being set and adjusted around Daddy Phil's desk. The cameraman checking through the viewfinders, cables being moved. Ted Gower stepped away from the desk, and Daddy Phil moved into place behind his chair. He shook Ted Gower's hand, turned, smiled, and spoke to one of them adjusting cables. The man laughed, bent over, and disappeared behind the desk. Cerise tried to catch Daddy Phil's attention, but there were too many people. The room was getting hot. The lights had been shut. The log in the fireplace crackled, and the man moved Harry Blaylock's hair to make room for another light. She looked at the cheese tray on the table and gathered up the skirts of her dress. There was a lot more of food in the kitchen. Daddy Phil said that she could change after they finished with her. She snatched a piece of cheese and glanced over her shoulder. No one was paying attention to her anyhow. Everyone was watching Daddy Phil. She ambled up the stairs and watching the crowd as she went, but no one even looked up. The refrigerator was crammed, and she peered through the cans of soda trying to find a Dr. Pepper. They through with you? She grabbed a can and straightened to look over the door into Bobby Blaylock's eyes. Mm-hmm. She held the can out towards him and snatched another. How come you're not downstairs? She asked. She shut the refrigerator door and leaned back against it as she pried open the tap. It's boring. The can hissed when he opened it, and the liquid gurgled in a noisy swallow. Cerise flattened her shoulders against the refrigerator and lowered her eyelashes and looked at Bobby. She was looking at the front of her dress. She pushed her chest forward, arched her back to make her breast push out even more. Bobby took another swallow and tried to stifle a burp. Are those real? She pointed at her breast. Some girls are all rubber. They're real, she answered, wiggled back and forth against the coolness of the appliance. I bet they are not. They're probably fake. He leaned against the refrigerator beside her and whispered in her ear. Let me feel and see whether they are real or not. She glanced up at him from one corner of her eye and then smiled as his hand moved hesitantly towards her, touching her slightly and then squeezing. All the times she had rubbed her own breast, it had never felt like this. It was exciting. She felt the nipples hardening and then a tingle run down her body. Now do you believe that they are real? Redness covered his cheeks at her words, but he kept his hand cupped around her breast and squeezed once more. Maybe. Feels real, but there's too much material. He dropped his hand and moved his gaze to the can of soda in his hand. Come on. She grabbed his hand. I'll show you. He faltered once as they crossed the living room. What if someone comes upstairs? Come on, she tugged at him. There'll be at least an hour. More if they have to reshoot anything. When he dropped his hand at the bedroom door, he hung back, first leaning on the door, then moving a few steps into the room. One strand of hair fell across his head. He brushed it back, nervously rubbing his ear.
Ah!
Not at this time, man! Seriously. No, not at this time. It's teenagers being horny time. Damn, I shouldn't have left that on. My screen is so empty, I feel so weird. I need to fix things later. Hang on. Let me finish this book first. He brushed it back, nervously rubbing his ear and shifting from one foot to the other. She undid the zipper and bent forward, whisking clouds of the chiffon over her head and letting it drift to the floor. Her hands went to her hips as she stepped across the dress and stood facing him. Hey, babe. Yes, it's been a while. It's been a long time. And I'm starting to read again. Today we are finishing a book, and then I think I'm gonna choose a book after this, depending on how many people are in my chat, which I cannot see in my. I can't see in my OBS, unfortunately. I don't really know how many people are here right now. Actually, 4 people. Okay, that's not a lot, so it's okay. And then after this, I'm going to take some time to fix my OBS basically because my Streamlab decided to die on me, sadly. And yes, and it was you who redeemed the moon. Yes. Oh my god. Okay. Hey, where's my okay. Tea. Her hands went to her hips as she stepped across his dress and stood stood facing him. Her eyelashes fell and flickered while she waited for his reaction. Don't you wear a bra? Bobby's eyes bulged. His voice fell almost to a whisper, slow and so hushed that Cerise had to strain to hear him. Sometimes, she giggled and moved closer to the stand in front of him. Now, do you believe that they are real? His head bobbed up and down. He gulped the last of the soda without taking his eyes off her and stood squeezing the can between his fingers. His gaze slid down to her underpants. He swallowed hard. You blonde down there too? He asked. Cerise gave him an evaluating look and reached down with one hand to expose her pubic hair. Have you ever done it? He blinked at her question as if he didn't understand and then moved his head from side to side. Want to try? She moved closer, letting her breast rub against his fingers. She smiled to herself at the growing redness of his face. Someone might come upstairs. He choked and squirmed back and forth. I told you. They have a whole hour to stuff to film. No one's going to come up. She twisted her head and looked up at him. The blonde hair swirled about her shoulders when Bobby reached for the zipper of his pants. She slid her hand down, pushed the panties to her feet, and sent them into the pile of chiffon with one swift kick. It wasn't fun at all, Cerise decided. Bobby wasn't as big as she thought boys were. He jabbed at her without effect until she had to guide him into her with one hand, and it didn't feel good at all. She bit her lip when she pushed into her. He looked odd. His eyes had a funny glazed look, and his mouth was hanging open. She put both of her hands on his chest and pushed hard until he stopped and stared at her with a puzzled look. We better quit. She pushed again and forced him away until he backed from the bed and stood up. I thought you wanted to. He sounded whining. I changed my mind, Cerise shrugged. I kept hearing noises like someone's coming upstairs. He yanked the zipper up and darted out the door. Cerise grinned to herself and rolled lazily off the bed. He was such a poop. It didn't take much to scare him. She took her time dressing, buttoning and unbuttoning the top button of her blouse until she scowled and unbuttoned the top 2 buttons. Bobby was waiting in the kitchen, pacing around the floor, looking anxiously at the stairway. Cerise, he paused. A room! Thank you. If you feel something is weird with my display today, I have changed my my stream capture device, which is from Streamlabs to OBS, back to OBS basically. I used to use OBS, but now I lost a lot of things like followers list and no, not new hair. This is like the most original. This is the first V Nuna that I made. VTuber. I call it V Nuna VTuber. This is the first one with the buns and the hoodie. Yeah. So my screen is a bit empty now. I hope you guys don't mind. After the reading, I'm going to take my time to slowly find out how to like add all those things back onto my OBS, basically. Yeah. Cerise, he paused, cleared his throat, and then, ooh, there you go. Go, get a seat. Today's reading is a bit late, because that took so much time to fix the streaming thing, unfortunately. Cerise, he paused, cleared his throat, and then stared at the refrigerator. You are gonna be my girl now, aren't you? She nibbled at the lower lip, and the corners of her mouth twitched. He looked so serious with his hair falling in his face. How can I be your girl? She giggled. You never kissed me. But Bobby stammered and reached for her. His hand tightened on her waist as his lips closed upon hers in an overly moist kiss. Cerise, what's going on? What's going on? At the sound of Phil's voice, Bobby jerked away from her and back across the kitchen. Phil walked towards Cerise, not even glancing in Bobby's direction. His stare was fixed directly on the front of her blouse. She looked down and hastily buttoned up the top 2 buttons. From one corner of her eye, she saw Bobby sliding along the wall, inching his way behind Phil and bolting down the stairs. Are you through already? She asked. She peered up at him, but kept her head bowed and waited for the answer. I'm changing jackets. And he clenched and unclenched one hand while she glared at her. What's been going on up here? She shrugged her shoulders and opened her eyes wide. Nothing, Daddy Phil. You call that nothing? It was only a kiss, Daddy Phil. She lifted her chin and smiled at him. It was the first time she had been alone with him for a week. He had been too busy for her. She hadn't been able to sit on his lap or talk to him at all. She darted forward and leaned against him, hugging him around the waist and rubbing her cheek against his chest. His hands gripped her arm. They dug into the flesh and shook her until her hands swung around her face, shook, and then shoved her with a violence that sent her hurtling back against the kitchen cabinets. The wrenching twist of her body thudding against the wood sent a spasm of pain down her back. Her mouth flew open. She gasped for air. Her hand went up to her face and pushed the strands of hair away from her eyes. Her mouth closed and her eyes narrowed as she watched him, alert, ready for another blow. He was standing with his feet apart, facing her with his hands shaking. She kept her eyes on him without wavering and braced herself, ready to duck if he made another move. The pain in her back stung as if she had been burned. It kept going on without easing. Daddy Phil had never been so furious before. He had no right to be this mad. He had no right to push her around. All he saw was Bobby kissing her. She kept her eyes steady and glared at him until he looked down at his hands. I won't have you kissing boys at your age. He raised his head and took a deep breath. And quit looking at me like that. I'm not a monster. I'm your father. She watched him without saying a word, waiting for him to apologize. He had hurt her. He should be sorry. Phil turned his head away. Go to your room, Cerise, and stay there until everyone is gone. Maybe Maybe if you aren't allowed to talk to Bobby, this will blow over. He started out of the room, and Cerise rubbed at her arms. Daddy Phil, you hurt me! He paused at the doorway and shook his head. Not as much as you deserve, he said, continuing to walk away from her. She dug her fingernails onto the palms of her hands and glared at his back. He had seen Bobby kiss her, and he still thought she was his little girl. But you weren't supposed to hurt people. He shouldn't have shoved her so hard. Her entire back hurt when she straightened and walked slowly to her bedroom. She kicked the white angel dress under the bed and flopped over on the bed spread. The pain was going away, but she was seething inside. She didn't love Daddy Phil at all, not anymore. He was mean, and he wasn't even sorry. He should be sorry. He would be sorry. She rolled up to a sitting position and crossed her legs. She squinched her eyes shut as tightly as she could. She prayed harder than she ever had and prayed over and over. She prayed until the bedroom door opened and Matt stuck his head through the crack. Daddy says that you can come out now. There's still lots of food. I'm not hungry. She closed her eyes and clamped her mouth shut. What are you doing? Praying. She closed her eyes and glared at Matt. Go away and leave me alone. She frowned and his eyes grew wide. Are you mad at me, Cerise? No, dummy. I'm mad at someone else, and God will fix him. Now go away. Who are you mad at? Will you go away? If you tell me. His voice quivered. If it's me, I'm sorry. It's not you, it's Daddy Phil. Now get out. She closed her eyes again and heard the door close. If she didn't leave her alone, she would take care of him the next. Make Daddy feel sorry he hurt me. She rocked back and forth and repeated the words over and over in a rising fury. Her ears rang and her jaw muscles hurt. God would fix Daddy Phil. God fix everything. Matt darted into the kitchen and snatched a ripe olive from the bowl, drawing a frown and a tap on his fingers from Wilma. Enough, young man. Leave some for your sister. She's not going to eat, Matt announced and stepped out of Wilma's way when she reached out for a roll of plastic wrap. Not going to eat? Wilma looked at him with disbelief. Is she sick? Cerise always eats. She's not sick, Matt answered. She's mad. Wilma grabbed the last of celery sticks and pushed the plate aside to make room for the drain board as Phil carried more food out from the basement. Maybe I should talk to her, she said and glanced at Phil. It's not like Cerise to refuse food, even when she's mad. She's pouting, Phil said. He set the plates down and wiped the glob of dressing from his mouth. I sent her to her room. She says she's mad, Matt argued. I suppose she is, Phil answered, but she's mad at me and pouting. He looked at Wilma and sighed. I don't think I handle it too well, but she'll get over her pouting when she gets hungry. She's not pouting, Daddy. She's praying. Phil rubbed Matt's curl with one hand and smiled. Well, she needs to do a lot of praying. Matt grabbed Phil's leg and looked up, and with his lower lip trembling. But she's praying for God to fix you. Fix me? Phil started to chuckle, but Matt's eyes filled with tears. His small head bobbed up and down. Cerise says God makes people sorry when she prays really hard. She'll make something bad happen to you, like she did to Eddie Carter. Phil's face sobered and he bent to pick Matt up in his arms and hold him against his chest. He patted the boy's shoulder and kissed him gently on the forehead. Wilma stood frozen and disgusted. He dropped an empty plate into the sink with a furious urge to break the thing. What is wrong with you? Telling you a story about that. I'll give you something to pout about. She grabbed at a towel and twisted it between her hands before she darted out of the room. Matt's will halted her at the doorway. No, Mommy! Don't make her mad, please! Don't make her mad at you too! Phil hugged Matt closer to him. Son, your sister can't make bad things happen. She's only telling you that to scare you. But she said that she prayed for God to fix Eddie Carter and he died. Huge tears ran down Matt's cheek. He buried his face against Phil's chest and shoulders, shook with muffled sobs. "This has gone too far, Phil," Wilma exploded. "I'm going to talk to her right now." Phil shook his head. "There's a better way, honey." He tilted Matt's head upward and held the boy's chin gently in his hand. "Son, God doesn't do things like kill people. Your sister can pray all she wants, but she can't make bad things happen to people. What happened to Eddie was an accident. And it would have happened, whether Cerise prayed or not. God doesn't punish anyone who doesn't deserve it." He patted Matt's back. "You wait and see. Nothing will happen, no matter how hard your sister prays. That should prove Cerise can't make anything happen." Matt wiped his nose at the back of his hands and sniffed. "Are you sure?" Phil gave him another squeeze about the shoulders. "I am sure, Matt. You watch. Nothing's going to happen to me." Matt sniffled once more, and Phil let him slide to the floor. Matt looked up in a struggling attempt to smile, and Phil gently wiggled the boy's ear with his index finger. "Son, who taught you and your sister how to pray?" Matt's face was sober as he answered, "You did." "Well then, I can pray even better than your sister, so don't worry." Matt's face cleared up and a wide smile appeared. Phil gave him one last pat on the head and said, "There's one more plate of rolls on the table downstairs. Why don't you bring them up for me?" Matt grinned and darted downstairs, leaving Phil rubbing thoughtfully at the back of his neck. Wilma tossed the towel up on the cupboard and bit her thumb. "I still think that I should talk to her," she said. "I don't like her scaring Matt like this. What kind of crazy ideas does she have anyway?" "The best idea for Matt to quit believing that nonsense is to see that nothing happens. What worries me is the odd idea she's getting about herself. Blaylock is right. Public schools aren't good for children." Wilma turned her head to stare at the cupboard. "I don't think the schools are to be blamed for Cerise. She's different, Phil. Sometimes she frightens me." Phil chuckled softly. She gets her way by backing everyone down. The way she glared at me was hair-raising, but she found out I don't scare easily. I can see how she scares a small boy." "I don't think she was trying to scare you," Wilma said thoughtfully. "She's never been mad at you before." "First time for everything," he flashed a smile at her. "You look as worried as Matt. Don't tell me you believe that she's going to do me in a prayer." Wilma continued to frown. "What Matt said about Eddie Carter. Nonsense. It's coincidence. A rotten coincidence, and Cerise believed that she made it happen." He put his arms around her and she snuggled against him. It did seem silly to worry, but Cerise had been so sure. The night of the accident, it was as if she knew something had happened to Eddie even before Phil had come home with the news. She shivered in spite of warmth of Phil's body against hers. "Once Cerise sees nothing happen to me, she will get over the ridiculous idea that she can make anything occur." Wilma clung to him and nodded as he spoke. He was right. Talking to Cerise wouldn't help. Cerise had to see that she wasn't capable of making things happen to people. She couldn't make anything happen to Phil. Wilma pushed her body closer to Phil's and wondered why she felt so cold. Cerise stopped in front of the school bulletin board and stared at the yellow sign with its bold black letters. She had seen it before. Today, she read it more carefully. Child abuse. You don't have to take it." She had bruises. There were bruises on her back and the imprints of Daddy Phil's hands on both arms. Bruises should be reported. The jarring sound of the bell scattered clusters of students down the halls and through classroom doors. Cerise stood reading the sign, twisting a strand of hair between his fingers. If the school counselor knew about her bruises, they would call and make Daddy Phil say he was sorry. They would tell him that he couldn't push her around. She walked towards the nurse's office. The sign said that she should report any physical abuse. The nurse scowled at Cerise, but the expression faded when Cerise rolled up her sleeve and bruises stood out blue and ugly against her white skin. The woman's breath sucked inward in loud approval and came out in a loud "Oh!" when Cerise pulled her blouse up and exhibited the bruises on her back. "How did you get those, child?" The woman clucked her tongue against her teeth and pulled Cerise's blouse higher, examining the skin carefully. "My stepfather." Cerise let the blouse drop into place as the woman backed away and reached for a notepad. Cerise settled into a chair and studied a cabinet full of medicine bottles and racks of thermometers. The woman kept rattling off questions, scribbling Cerise's answers and clucking to herself. She left Cerise alone for a few minutes and came back with a file card in her hand. She frowned at the card and eased herself into the chair behind her. Her lips worked back and forth, finally blurting, "According to the reports, your stepfather is a minister. Your father is a minister." "Stepfather," Cerise corrected and wondered what made the lady frown so hard. "It's difficult to..." The woman laid the card down on the desk and reached for her pen once more. Cerise stretched her legs and waited. When was the woman going to stop asking questions and call Daddy Phil? "Why did your stepfather do this, Cerise?" She stared at the woman. What difference did it make why Daddy Phil did it? She had bruises and he shouldn't have done it. I mean... The woman seemed to be floundering. "Is there anything else you want to tell me?" Cerise kept her attention on the woman's face. What else did she want to know? "Did he touch you in other way, Cerise?" Cerise glanced at the clock and bit her lip. What was she trying to find out? She stared into the woman's eyes until the nurse glanced down at the papers on her desk and sighed. "Cerise, if there has been any other form of abuse, you should tell me. If this had happened before, you shouldn't be afraid to tell me. If there have been sexual abuses, you should tell me. Do you understand?" She paused and added, "Don't be afraid, Cerise. I'm here to help you." Cerise nodded and half closed her eyes. "He wants to..." she answered in a low voice. "Wants to what?" The pen was suspended in the air, pointing like an arrow at the paper. "Well, you know, he looks down my blouse and he gets She didn't want to say it, but the woman was waiting for something, more answers to be put down on the paper. "He wants to fuck me." She watched the pen scratch across the paper. It must be what the woman wanted her to say. She leaned back in the chair and stared at the floor. The woman got up from the desk and walked to the window, staring out at the courtyard. Was she going to call Daddy Phil now? Cerise looked back down at the floor and waited. "This isn't my field, Cerise. I'm going to call Miss Donahue. She's with the Children's Protective Division. I have to report these cases to her." She turned away from the window. As she passed Cerise, she took the girl's hand and patted Cerise's head. Cerise jerked her head away and gritted her teeth together. She wasn't a little girl anymore, and the woman wasn't one of Daddy Phil's church women. She was too old to have her head patted. Why didn't the lady just call Daddy Phil and get it over with? She didn't want to talk to Miss Donahue. All she wanted was Daddy Phil to be sorry. Chapter 7. Officer Virginia Donahue motioned Cerise to a seat. She scanned the notes handed to her by the junior high school nurse and whistled softly under her breath. The city's newest Bible thumper, no less, another of the self-righteous hypocrites. The Child Abuse Division dragged in all sort of unbelievable offenders. She raised her head and studied the girl. An odd one. Makeup. They wore makeup so damn young. This one appeared older than 11 and a half. She would have guessed Cerise to be at least 13 or 14. Strangely stoic girl. Not a word out of her during the ride from the school to the office. Some of these kids were difficult, hiding the truth, some ashamed to talk, some frightened. This one didn't seem to fit any pattern. But she had bruises. She had asked for help. "Cerise, The girl gazed out of the window that lined Virginia's office. She appeared calm and unconcerned. Her attention was focused on a group of 6 green and yellow clad runners heading towards the Prefontaine Trail. Her hands lay folded in her lap. At the sound of Virginia's voice, she turned her head. Her eyes narrowed. Her chin lifted only a fraction before she tilted her head in an attentive position. For a flashing second, Virginia Donahue was reminded of her Siamese cat, the same watchfulness, alert and waiting. She turned her back to the paper on her desk. The girl had not actually accused the stepfather of incest, only said that he wanted to fuck her. Even a minister's kid used those street language for it. Better ask more questions. See if she could define the situation. If this went to the court, she had to be positive. Did he lay the kid or didn't he? You told nurse what the devil was the woman's name? Her fingers flipped through sheets of paper. Nurse Jordan. You told her that your stepfather was responsible for your bruises. She hesitated, waiting for a comment, but Cerise only stared back. Is that correct? Cerise nodded her head once. The hands were still calm and in place, not even a twitch of the fingers. You said that he wanted to have sexual intercourse. Did he actually have actual sexual relations with you? The eyelashes flickered once. The girl's face remains expressionless. Do you understand what I'm asking you, Cerise? Yes. No tremor in the girl's voice, but no answer. The girl was old enough. She wasn't an infant. According to the records, Cerise had a complete sex education course. She didn't show any sign of embarrassment. No reason to be direct in her questions. Did your stepfather ever penetrated your vagina, either with his hand or with his penis? Cerise dropped her chin. Her eyes narrowed and her mouth closed into a firmly set line. Nothing. Again, no answer. I know it's a personal question, Cerise, but I'm not asking it to embarrass you, only to help you. She waited. Let Cerise think for a few minutes. Don't pressure her. Get the girl's confidence. This one didn't act frightened. She acted totally devoid of feeling. The silence could be simply distrust. A truck rumbled and grated through the gears in the street outside. Cerise turned her head towards the white windows. Virginia Donahue fingered a soft silken scarf at her neck and ran her tongue across her top teeth. Try another approach. Deal with the beating. Get to the sexual abuse problem later. Cerise, do you want me to help you? Yes. What kind of help do you want? The head turned, and Cerise looked at her with a cool poise. I want you to make him say that he is sorry and promise not to hurt me anymore. Did your mother try to stop him? Cerise's nose wrinkled. Her eyes rolled towards the ceiling in an expression of disgust. She wasn't there. What did she say about it? She doesn't know. The nose wrinkled again, and Cerise leaned back in the chair, kicking idly at the floor with one foot. Why didn't you tell her about it? Virginia made a rapid series of notes. It added up to more question marks than answers. These cases were never simple. This one could be a delay if she ever got any answers. At least the girl wasn't sobbing. Don't you think your mother should know what to do? Cerise shrugged her shoulders. She's kind of dumb. She never knows what to do. Daddy feels smart. Submissive mother? Was it the girl's problem too? Virginia added a notation to have some psychological evaluation made of the girl. She flipped through the Rolodex, wondering what tests. Who should she request to administer them? Are you going to call the daddy Phil? Cerise's unexpected question startled her. Her fingers slipped, and she lost her place in the cart. No, Cerise. I'm going to have a doctor check you over. We're going to take some photograph of the marks on your body, and we're going to have the doctor check you for sexual damage. Then will you call him? Why should I? To make him feel sorry that he hurt me. Cerise stiffened her shoulders and hands went up to clutch the arm of the chair. It's not up to me, Virginia said. It will be up to the court. For the first time, Cerise was showing some reaction. She twisted in her chair and chewed at her lower lip. You mean a judge and stuff like that? Possibly. First, we have to have the doctor look at you. The girl's left hand twisted at the lock of her hair. Her eyes no longer met Virginia's. Instead, Cerise stared at the tip of one pink running shoe and wiggled her foot up and down. What happens after the examination? Then, do we see the judge? Virginia leaned back in her chair and found her fingers back at the Rolodex, flipping cards without looking at them. It doesn't happen that quickly, Cerise. You'll be made ward of the court, placed in a protective custody until we find this matter straightened out. It means you'll be a foster home for a while. Tonight, you'll be at the children's shelter, but it's temporary. You mean I can't go home? Cerise leaned forward on the edge of the chair with a puzzled expression that Virginia drew a few more question marks on the margin of her paper. No, but don't worry. I'll call your mother and talk to her about the doctor's exam. When the assurance failed to alter Cerise's expression, Virginia decided to try a gentler approach. Perhaps Cerise was more frightened than she was showing on the surface. We are going to keep you at the foster home, Cerise, so your stepfather cannot hurt you. It takes time to set up the legal work so we can protect you. We don't like to have children hurt, Cerise. We care about what happens to you. God! The girl had the oddest green eyes. Her gaze was fixed on the remote point above Virginia's head. Her eyes were steady, half squinting, glistening like waters in a deep mountain pool. What about clothes? Cerise frowned. Virginia felt an odd snap in her spinal column. Girls, you look for all the complex reasons, and they were only worried about what to wear. She should have guessed. The makeup should have tipped her off. Cerise would be the type who'd be worried about her appearance. Well, when I call your mother, I'll see what about picking up some of your clothes. I'm sure she'll want you to stay with us. Virginia smiled for the first time since Cerise had become her case. Give it a little time, Donahue, she said to herself. You're going to make it too complex. You'll figure it out. We'll get things fixed for you, Cerise, she said calmly and reached for the phone. First, the examination. The paper gown dropped to the white tiled floor. Cerise stood in the examination room and reached for her clothes. This wasn't going the way she thought it would. No one was going to call Daddy Phil, at least not for a while. She was sore. No one told her doctors poked their fingers up inside and pushed on your stomach until they make you want to go to the bathroom. What was going to happen? Court? A judge? They couldn't make her say anything. Not if she didn't want to. What are incest charges? She wanted to ask Miss Donahue, but she hadn't come back into the room, not since the doctor finished examining her. That does it! We filed incest charge on this bastard. Miss Donahue's voice had been so loud that Cerise had heard it through the door, but still, Miss Donahue hadn't come back. She didn't want to stay in the foster home. She wanted to go home and have Daddy Phil hug her and say that she was sorry. She finished buttoning her blouse and dug her hairbrush out of her purse. They shouldn't put those signs up in school. The signs didn't tell you about staying in foster home. She stopped brushing her hair and listened. It was awfully quiet. No one was walking around the house. A car horn bleated outside the window. A motor revved, then silence. Her fingers darted into the bottom of her purse. Lunch money. She had a whole week's lunch money, enough for a cab. She pulled the door open, checked the hall, and grabbed up her shoes in one hand before she darted across the gleaming tiles and through the front door. Miss Donahue couldn't keep her here if she didn't want to stay. She pushed her feet into the shoes and surveyed the street. A bicycle brushed past her and turned up the curb into the alley, passing a small sign. Emerald Hotel, employee entrance. She smiled and followed the bicyclist. Hotel, have cabs. She was going home. Phil returned to his desk, slightly puzzled at having to call upstairs for Wilma to take the phone. She never received phone calls. Perhaps it was someone she met at her class. He could tell her how wrong she had been. Classes were good for Wilma. Her eyes sparkled with excitement when she came home. If anything, she was putting extra effort into the housework. The buffet dinner she put together had made Ted Gower encourage her to start a catering business, and Harry Blaylock threatened to diet. Magnificent move, inviting Harry Blaylock to watch the filming. The prospects of a television program impressed the Blaylock. She followed. Hang on. She followed. Where is it? She followed where? She followed where? She followed where? He followed every move of the cameraman. The last segment appealed for the Christian school, and had Harry Blaylock lifting his backside off the chair and grinning like a miser watching gold coins drop onto his palms. Phil had touched Harry Blaylock. Who cared about the viewers? Phil reached for the financial reports from Ted Gower. The percentage Ted received for his promoting efforts was well earned. The phone broadcast produced a steady river of checks from all over the Willamette Valley. Now, Ted had placed spots in California. The coverage was growing faster than he believed possible, even with Ted collecting 10% for handling the correspondence. The bank account was multiplying every week. They had enough. With matching funds from Blaylock, and the chapel would be built now. Set up a meeting with the Blaylock, get the building permits. They were on the way. The Thayer Gospel Center. His dream. He glanced at Ted's attached note. Ted needed more autographed pictures. Phil pulled the desk open, estimated at 50, and tossed snapshots out onto the desk. As he opened the center drawer and groped for a pen, the photographs were snatched up, hurled across the floor. He jerked his head up and stared into Wilma's flushed face. Even under the makeup, her skin was pale. 2 angry blotches stood out on her cheekbones. She began beating on the desk with both fists, beating on the desk and screaming, "Damn you! Damn you!" The burst of violence stunned him. He couldn't move. His throat was numb. His mouth was open, but nothing came out. You... She sputtered, grabbed the pen out of his hand, and flung it out after the pictures. "What have you been up to with Cerise?" His mouth formed the name Cerise, but the word couldn't come out. What was she screaming about? She was screaming at him. Wilma? Screaming? Cerise? What about Cerise? You and your fancy preaching. All the big talks about protecting her. Protecting her from what? So you can screw her yourself? She slapped both hands on the desk and screamed the words into his face, spitting the words out with the spray of saliva that turned into a drooling stream from the corner of her mouth. "Shut up!" He slammed the desk drawer shut and came out of his chair with such a force that the chair spun backward and fell onto the carpet. "It's bad enough to have you swearing and cursing like some ungodly heathen. You have the nerve to accuse me of..." His voice froze. He couldn't say the word. How could she? How could she accuse him of intercourse with Cerise? Why would she accuse him? She swung. Her open hand hit his face with a force that jarred his hair down over his forehead. He lifted his hand, rubbed at his cheek, and stared at her. The physical attack released the tension in her shoulders and sent her into a burst of tears. Words came floundering out, and Phil reached back, groping blindly for his chair. She was serious. His hand grasped the arm of the chair and tucked it upright. His knees buckled, and he fell back into the security. Something had to hold him up. His legs wouldn't. "The woman on the phone, they're holding Cerise at the foster home because..." She wiped her mouth at last. The saliva washed away a streak of her makeup. "Because you beat her. And they said she had... The doctor said someone had... There was proof that she has been sexually..." She faltered for a second. and finally forced the words out in a gust of air. She had sexual intercourse. What woman? Who's holding Cerise? The police. She's at the children's protection. Oh, I can't remember the name for it. Where they take abused kids. But why? Why think I had anything to do with it? Phil heard his own voice and couldn't believe it had gone so high. He was squeaking. He fought himself trying to get some control. Cerise said the reason you beat her was because you wanted to fuck her. He was going to vomit. He knew it was only seconds away from spewing out onto the bed. Take a deep breath. I didn't beat her. I didn't. I never touched her sexually. Well, someone did. She has bruises and they had a doctor to check her over. They said that they have proof that she was fucked. Proved. Phil. Phil put his head down between his knees. Stop the dizziness. How did she even get the bruises? Wilma demanded. The woman said she has bruises like finger marks on both arms and a bad bruise across her back. Cerise told the school nurse that you did it. The Blaylock boy. Phil inhaled a long breath and raised his head. The kiss. It wasn't the first kiss he had interrupted. It was Phil. It was an aftermath of sex. Explain it, Phil. There was an edge to Wilma's voice, a keen edge, and he didn't want to look into her face. I might have bruised her. He tried to think. Maybe he had pushed her harder than necessary. He had been too mad, furious at her trying to plaster her body against him. I caught her kissing Bobby Blaylock. I was mad. I didn't think I hurt her, at least not badly. What about the rest of it? He looked up at her, feeling as if he was looking at a stranger. The helpless blue eyes were cold. Didn't she believe him? It must have been. It had to be Bobby, he said bitterly. They must have already had their bedroom adventure. Why would Cerise say that you wanted to? Phil groaned. Wasn't she going to leave him anything? Her question tore into his flesh, scratched into his conscience, and raked open the confession. I suppose because lately he has been giving me such a come on. I couldn't take it. She's got some romantic idea that she was going to marry me when she grew up. I tried to avoid her as much as I could. She's been giving you a come on? Wilma's voice rang with skepticism. Are you sure you didn't encourage it? Wilma? He struggled to find the right words. He couldn't tell her, couldn't admit how much he had been physically attracted to Cerise. Things were bad enough. I couldn't take the way he kept rubbing against me, but I didn't. I never encouraged her ideas. If she had been sleeping around, it was Bobby Blaylock. It had to be. He put his head between his hands and leaned over the desk. Cerise would ruin him. He had to talk to Cerise, find out why. Why was she doing this? Call up Bobby Blaylock. Let's see what he says. Wilma's voice soared into his thoughts, harsh and demanding. He wouldn't admit it. Phil felt a rush of despair. He must talk to Cerise. Bobby was too afraid of his father. Bobby wouldn't admit a thing. But Cerise, he would get the truth out of Cerise. He would shake it off out of her. Then get Bobby's parents on the phone. I want the truth, Phil. All he could do was shake his head. Wilma, if Harry Blaylock hears about this, I'm finished. He wouldn't let one of his family come near the church or me. To hell with Harry Blaylock. Wilma, stop using profanity. I've heard all I want to hear. I won't have it. She backed away from the desk and braced both her hands on her hip. You are not telling me what to do or say, Phil. This whole thing is your fault. My fault? She's your daughter. Evidently she takes up after her mother. Can't resist getting into bed with anything handy. The shaking started as soon as he said the words. His hands were sweating. The palm stuck to the desk when he put them down on the wood to stop the shaking. You should know. Wilma snapped. I'm sorry. He barely whispered the words. It wasn't called for, Wilma. I'm sorry. A little late, Phil. He stood and watched him as his shoulders began to shake. Why couldn't he get control of himself? Why calling Bobby Blaylock do any good? He glanced at the phone, almost reached, and then stopped, hung his head. Bobby wouldn't admit it. He's too scared, he murmured aloud. He raised his head and looked at Wilma. We have to talk to Cerise. We have to. She's trying to get even. Matt said that she was mad, remember? Wilma's eyes changed expression. She quit glaring at him and became thoughtful. The woman, Wilma, the one who called you. Call her and see if we can talk to Cerise. You and I. Together. She walked towards the window and gazed out across the lawn. Phil wiped his hand on his pants legs and began to breathe slowly. If they could talk to Cerise, they wouldn't try to appeal to him using her body. Not with Wilma present. She couldn't face him, accuse him, or could she? Wilma turned away from the windows and walked slowly towards him. Her head was down, and she was chewing on her thumb. I don't think they will let us talk to her, Phil. But we have to! He felt his voice drifting up into a dangerous note of panic. Try, Wilma. Call her and ask. She stood and thought, then shook her head. I asked her when she called if I could talk to Cerise. She said maybe after they run into some some mental test, and only if Cerise wants to talk to me. If Cerise wants to talk? Don't we have any rights? Wilma shrugged her shoulders. The woman, Donahue, said that they were to protect the rights of the child, not the parent. She's coming to pick up some clothes for Cerise later. I can ask her then, but I don't think they will let us talk to her, at least not until after the hearing. Hearing? What hearing? Phil rose up in his chair and clutched at his desk. They are going to charge you with child abuse. There will be a hearing, but I don't know when. Oh, God! Phil felt the word blurt out and couldn't believe he had taken the Lord's name in vain. It wasn't in vain, though. It was a prayer. God was all the hope he had. Charge me! Are they going to arrest me? Wilma nodded. She said that they couldn't prove the incest charges in court until they investigate more, but they can charge you with beating Cerise. Isn't there anything I can do to stop it? I don't know. You're supposed to be the smart one, remember? I'm supposed to run the house. She turned and started walking towards the stairs. Phil let his mouth fall open as he stared at her back. Where are you going? She looked back at him from the stairs with a flat, disinterested dullness to her face. I'm packing some of Cerise's things, she said, and continued up the stairs, out of the sight. He sank back into the chair, feeling like a lump of melting snow. Cold. He was cold. Arrested? This was a nightmare, and he was living it. There must be some way to stop it. The phone. He tried to think. Call Ted Gower. No, Ted was too close. Something might slip to Blaylock. A lawyer. He needed a lawyer, but the only lawyers he knew were the ones who handled legal contracts with his television sponsor. He groped for the phone book. How much time did he have? Would he get a summons? Would he be arrested and have to post bail? Did it make any difference? The phone book tumbled to the floor. What difference did it make? If they couldn't talk to Cerise until the hearing, there wasn't any hope. He'll be on the record as being charged with abuse. He would have a police report. Blaylock would drop him. He picked up the financial report. Could he make it without Blaylock? The report dropped back onto the desk. Who would believe him now? How many people would turn out for services led by a man charged with beating his child? He wouldn't even have a place to hold services without Blaylock. Television show would never be broadcast. Phil cringed in his chair. The sponsor had the right to pull his support if Phil was charged with or convicted of a crime. He had thought it an amusing clause. Now, there was nothing to smile about. Cerise had fixed him. All right. It wasn't her prayers that did damage. It was Cerise. He shouldn't have pushed her so hard. The look in her eyes. She looked at him with such strange expression. What had his mother said? Hatred. The girl that followed him around like a Gosling was ruining everything. The Goslings! The look in her eyes when she complained that he had hurt her. This afternoon when the afternoon when she stomped the Goslings to death. The same eyes, cold, defiant, hard, cold, green eyes, without a waver in the stare. He shivered and moved his chair closer to the fireplace. What hope did he have? He was guilty of the bruises. The sex charge would always be hanging over his head. If Wilma didn't believe him, how could he expect anyone else to? Only Cerise and Bobby Blaylock could clear him. If Bobby told the truth, he would still be ruined with Harry Blaylock. Harry wouldn't be apart with a penny, not if he knew Cerise had seduced his son. Start over. Could he start over? He dropped his head in his hand. With a police report of child abuse, someone would talk about it. Cerise would find other ways to make him sorry. Every time he opposed her, he would be a victim. She would never believe her prayers hadn't caused grief. The Thayer Chapel would never be built. He put his head down and tried to pray for strength. Would praying stop the summons? Would it stop the police from coming? The plans! All the plans! Now there were only so much papers. He pulled the drawer open and drew out the roll of papers. He rolled the rubber band back and forth under his fingertips. Tears rolled down his cheeks and splashed onto the paper until he hurled the plans into the fireplace. The flames snatched at the corner and flared. He stared at the flyer and then pulled the extra photographs from the desk. Slowly, he fed them one by one into the destructive blaze. Might as well forget the dream. Cerise had smashed it. Go home and run his mother's farm. His mother? She wouldn't believe him either. Like his father, she wouldn't forgive the scandal. His fingers touched leather and wiped at his tears. The gun, Ned Carter's pistol, was still tucked away in the bottom drawer. He had forgotten it was there, forgotten all about the Carters. What kind of person had he become? Forgetting the Carters and the boy Cerise hated. The gun came out of the holster so easily. Funny, it didn't feel so heavy right now. He let it out on the desk and watched the fire light reflecting on the metal barrel. The financial report. He picked up a pen and scribbled a note across the top. If Wilma had enough sense, she wouldn't starve. At the thought of Wilma, he slumped in his chair. She wasn't the same anymore. She hadn't cried and asked him what to do. She had believed the story. Maybe she still did. He didn't know what Wilma thought anymore. At the sound of the doorbell, he lifted his head. He couldn't hear the voices. The basement was too far away. Only the bell sounded here. Was it the Donahue woman or a possessed server? He reached for Carter's gun and removed the cartridge from the belt, then let it drop, rolling across the top of the desk. Matt's voice, high-pitched and squeaking, echoed downstairs as he pushed the chair away from the desk. Matt pounded across the carpet. "Daddy! There's a deer in the backyard! Look!" Matt made a lunge around at the edge of the desk, dodged the candelabra, and skidded to a stop with his nose pressed against the sliding glass doors. "Look!" he whispered coarsely. Phil blinked away the dampness in his eyes and bent his head. He had forgotten Matt. His fingers trembled, then clenched around the notes and tore the paper into shreds. Matt needed him. Needed to grow up knowing a man could be human. He crossed the carpet and knelt to put his arms around Matt's shoulders. "Daddy is going away!" Matt looked up into Phil's eyes with disappointment. "Let's slip out and see if we can find it." Phil reached out for the handle and slid the door open. He caught Matt's hand tightly in his and held on, holding the one last moment of peace with his son. One sip of tea. Alrighty. What's a kid like you doing downtown? The cab driver asked. Cerise looked up at the sound of his voice and met his eyes in the rearview mirror. He laced his fingers together and leaned back against the seat before answering. The cushions reeked of stale cigar smoke that made her nose itch. I mean, aren't you supposed to be in school? She stared at a mole at the back of his neck and wondered if it got in the way when he had a haircut. A holiday or something? The man persisted. I'm going to be on television, she said and pulled her hair forward from the smelly upholstery. On television? You are an actress? The cab swerved right and dodging a street repair barrier and swung down the maple-lined avenue. Cerise spotted the white car with the Lane County insignia on the door. Miss Donahue must be here, looking for her. She leaned forward and tapped the man's shoulder. Could you stop in front? I mean right here? It's okay. I'll take you to the door. No, she blurted out, then took a long breath. I mean, I want to surprise them. They don't know I got the part. Oh, okay. He braked and pulled the car alongside the curb. Cerise dropped the money into his hand and looked towards the windows of the house. No one appeared. The drapes hung without moving. Miss Donahue must be inside, talking to Mother. She didn't want to talk to Miss Donahue anymore. If Mother thought she should stay at the shelter, then she didn't want to talk to Mother either. Daddy Phil. She had to talk to Daddy Phil. She darted across the lawn and around the side of the house, slipping through the garage to the back door. She put her head against the wood and listened, then turned the knob and listened again. The back part of the house was quiet. Her hand gripped the knob as the door closed, holding it until she could let it turn and latch without a sound. A murmur of voices came from the living room. Women's voices, Mother and Miss Donahue. She quickly moved towards the stairs and descended into the daylight basement. The room was empty, but the glass door stood open. She moved across the room and flopped into the chair behind Daddy Phil's desk. When he came back, he would say that he was sorry. As soon as he saw the bruises on her arm, he would hug her and everything would be all right. The gun caught her eye, and she tilted her head to one side, looking at the leather grip on the handle. Where did Daddy Phil get a gun? She picked it up and turned it over and over in her hand, then picked up the bullet and scowled. The bullets must go into the round part, but how? She pushed at it, turned at it, and shook it in her hand. What good was a gun if she couldn't get the bullets into it? From the top of the stairs, she heard Miss Donahue's voice. I'm sure the police will find her, Mrs. Thayer. After all, there can't be too many missing girls with flaxen hair like Cerise. She couldn't hear Mother's answer, only a blurring of sounds. They were coming downstairs. She hurled the bullets into the fireplace and leaned back against the chair. Let Miss Donahue try to take her back into the shelter. She would pray hard, and God would keep it from happening. She put the palms of her hands together and squeezed her eyes shut. Virginia Donahue stopped in the mid-step. Her foot hovered in the air, and then slowly came down to the next thread of the stair. The girl was here, sitting calmly behind the desk as if nothing had happened. The sharp intake of breath from Wilma Thayer convinced Virginia that Cerie's presence was equally surprising to the girl's mother. Cerise, where have you been? Wilma darted down the rest of the staircase, leaving Virginia staring at the girl. Odd. Why didn't she open her eyes and answer her mother? Wilma reached the front of the desk, and still Cerise ignored her presence. Virginia pushed herself into action to bounce down the last steps and cross the room to the desk. Cerise, answer me! Wilma's voice was sharp, but Cerie's eyes remained closed. Virginia moved around the desk. Please, Mrs. Thayer, let me talk to her. She touched Cerie's shoulder with her fingertips. Cerise, you came to me for help, and now I'm here. Cerise jerked her shoulder away before she swiveled the chair around and opened her eyes. When she looked up, Virginia caught her breath and yanked her hand back when faced by the intensity and hatred in Cerie's eyes. "You don't want help," Cerie said. "You weren't going to let me come home." Virginia knelt in front of Cerise. "Cerise, we are only trying to protect you. You can't let you come home if there's a chance you'll be beaten." She reached out and placed her hand over the girl's, only to have it shoved aside. "Daddy Phil didn't beat me." Virginia stared into the girl's eyes. Was she changing her story to protect her father? Some children did, yet this one was calm, too calm. There seemed to be no emotion at all in Cerie's face. "Cerise," Virginia tried to sound soothing, "you showed me the bruises. You told me your father did it." "Stepfather," Cerise corrected primly. "I didn't say he beat me. I said he hurt me." "But the sexual abuse," Virginia said. "You said that he hurt you because he wanted sex. We can't let you stay here if he's going to do that to you." Cerise sighed. For a second, Virginia felt as if she was the child and Cerise was the adult. The girl acted bored. She was bending here and making her knees ache, and the girl didn't give a damn about being helped. "Cerise." She tried to touch the girl's hand again, but this time it was pushed away with force. "He didn't do it," Cerise said. "I said he wanted to, and you guys made the rest of it up." Virginia gasped and looked across Cerie's shoulder at Wilma Thayer. "The examination, Mrs. Thayer. The doctor said that she had intercourse. I can't ignore the doctor's report." Wilma stared at Cerise and only nodded at Virginia's statement. She looked down at the desk, frowned when her glance rested on the handgun, then lifted her chin and studied Cerise's face. "I think there's another answer, Miss Donahue." She walked around the desk and spun the swivel chair around, forcing Cerise to face her. "Now, young lady," she snapped, "who really got in your pants, Phil or Bobby Blaylock?" Virginia caught the edge of the desk and pulled herself erect. She edged herself around the chair, waiting for Cerise's answer. The corners of Cerise's mouth moved as if she was fighting a smile. "I want an answer," Wilma said. Cerise giggled. "Bobby looks so dumb." Virginia gasped. "And I've already started the arrest proceedings, my God!" She felt her ribcage crushing her lungs. False arrest charges. She had to stop the warrant. But the bruises, there were still marks on the girl's body, but she said he had not beaten her. The sharp crack of a bullet exploding reverberated through the room, the metallic twang of metal striking stone, and the wine swelling up out of the fireplace. Virginia found herself face down on the carpet as her reflex reaction took possession of her body. She lifted her head and stared at Cerise. The damn girl had her eyes closed again. Her eyes were closed, and Cerise was smiling. Phil's head jerked around at the sound. "Gunfire?" His fingers tightened on Matt's shoulder. "The gun! He had left it on the desk. Wilma? Wilma doesn't know anything about guns." "Daddy? What was that?" Matt's face was curious but not frightened. "You stay here," Phil said. "I'll check." "It was loud." "I know," Phil said over his shoulder. "You watch the deer, son. They might come back." He tried to keep the panic out of his voice. "What if Wilma loaded the gun?" He broke into a run across the lawn and hit the patio, almost slipping on the flagstones, but caught his balance with one hand and stepped through the door. Wilma's face was a white blur in front of him. She was standing. She wasn't hurt. The air was laden with the scent of gunpowder, but Wilma was turning toward him. "What happened?" He forced the words out as he crossed the room, caught her in his arms, and looked down at the desk. The gun was still on the desk. No one seemed to move except the woman brushing off her skirts. "Cerise, did you—" "It came from the fireplace, Mr. Thayer." The woman spoke up. She tucked her jacket into place and straightened to face him. "But how did it get there?" Phil asked. He stared down at the gun and then glanced across the top of the desk. The bullet. He had laid it down on the desktop. and it was gone. I'm sorry, Mr. Thayer, I don't know, she replied and added, by the way, I'm Virginia Donahue. She's from the Children's Protective Division, Wilma murmured. Phil groaned and let his arm fall away from his wife. He put one hand on the desktop and looked at Cerise. Open your eyes, Cerise. I think it's time you answered some questions, Cerise. He turned towards Virginia. If it's allowed. He felt Wilma's hand on his arm, but there was no other feeling in his body. The child abuse charges still hung over him like a ceiling, ready to cave in, and Cerise sat there with her eyes closed. Cerise, open your eyes and look at me, he demanded. What's going on? I'm praying, Daddy Phil. She opened her eyes and smiled at him. He forced his hand open, surprised to find he had doubled it into a fist while he waited for her answer. What are you praying for? He asked. I was praying for God to make Miss Donahue go away, she said, and he almost did. He heard the intake of air as Virginia Donahue faltered backward and eased into a chair. It wasn't God, Cerise. Someone threw a bullet in the fireplace. He watched her face closely, but there was only the serene smile. Why? It was God. God always fixes things. I can't help it if God makes things happen differently. I pray, and He fixes things. He always does. He sure scared her. Cerise smiled. I prayed God would make Eddie sorry, and He did. If Eddie was so smart, he would have seen me put the clip into the gun. God doesn't answer bad prayers. You said so, Daddy. She got up and stretched both arms. God always answers my prayers. I have a special way of praying. She glanced at Virginia Donahue and then turned back to look up at Phil's eyes. I'm hungry, she said. Can I get a sandwich? No. Wilma's hand fell away from his arm. What do you mean, God answer your prayers? What other prayers has He answered? Lots of them, Cerise sniffed. It wasn't an answer to a prayer, Cerise, Phil said. God wouldn't make someone die because you prayed for it. I didn't ask for him to die, Cerise said. I just asked God to fix Eddie for calling him a lizard. God does things. Like Kathleen? Kathleen? Wilma choked the name out. What about Kathleen? Cerise moved around the edge of the desktop and drew circles with her finger on the desktop. The flashes fluttered and the eyebrows lifted. What about Kathleen? Phil repeated softly. Even the lining of his stomach felt cold as he waited for the reply. God took her, she said. You know that. Did you pray for God to take her? Phil leaned towards her. No, I only prayed for God to make her go away. She let her finger trail off the end of the desk. I'm awfully hungry. Can I go now? Phil! Wilma's voice crackled in a worried whisper. She told Matt she could make things happen. She believes it. Phil nodded without taking his eyes from Cerise's face. God didn't put the bullet in the fire. It was here on the desk and it's gone. You must have done it. There's no way to put it into the gun, Cerise answered, then her nose wrinkled. It's a stupid gun. Eddie Carter's gun had a thing you pushed in. What good is a gun if there's no way to put a bullet in? Eddie Carter's? Wilma's voice slipped up into a shrill note of confusion. How did you know about the Carter's gun? Phil felt Wilma's shoulder digging into the flesh of his arm. From the corner of his eye, he could see Virginia Donahue stiffen. Her mouth opened and closed as if to interrupt. Then he sank back into her chair. You mean the rifle? That Mr. Carter got for Christmas? Cerise nodded and giggled. Eddie showed me how it worked. How you put the bullets in the clip and pushed the clip into the gun. Who put the clip into the rifle? Phil put his hand over Wilma's and squeezed. Her fingers were cold and rigid over his. I did, she shrugged. Cerise! Phil felt his throat growing dry. That was what caused the accident. If you had not put the clip in, Eddie would still be alive. She opened her eyes wider, then the mascara darkened, lashes lowered. Oh no, God did it. How can you say that? You made it happen. Where were you when Kathleen died? He felt Wilma shaking his lip, but he had to know the answer. I want to believe you, Cerise, he said, and he fought to keep the emotions out of his voice. Tell me how it happened. Cerise took both hands and placed them on the back of her neck. She fanned her long hair out and let it fall over her shoulders. She followed me to feed the ducks and I hid. I didn't want her to see me, so I prayed hard for God to make her go away. How did she get into the water? Wilma's voice was faint and far away, even though she was still close to his elbow. She stepped in. She got mud all over her shoes. Cerise giggled. She didn't pay attention, just stood there in the mud. Then what happened, Cerise? Why didn't you get her out of the mud? They called me for the races, so I didn't want to miss them. Did she try to follow you to the races? She giggled again. No, she couldn't. I pushed her. She was too busy trying to get out of the water. I ran before she could start screaming. She always screamed. She looked up at Phil. I won the race too, and then God decided to take Kathleen. She twisted back and forth and then looked past Phil to her mother. Can I eat now? Not just yet, Phil said. What makes you think God answered your prayer? He waited until she turned, and his gaze focused on hers, looking into the deep green, emotionless depth. Because if God had not answered my prayer, she would have gotten out of the mud after I pushed her. It wasn't deep. She moved forward and flung her arms around his waist, clutching him against her and rubbing her body against his. He grabbed at her arms, pushed her away from him, seeing Virginia Donahue's eyes widen, feeling Cerise stiffen under his grip. See, Daddy Phil? You're hurting me again. Her head whirled about. See, Miss Donahue, that's how he hurt me. And you didn't make him say he was sorry. Phil dropped his hands away from her. Oh, this because I pushed you away? He hesitated, then leaned against his desk, feeling a bone-deep fatigue. Go get a sandwich, he said hoarsely, and go to your room for a while. None of them spoke as Cerise strode placidly up the stairs. Phil's gaze met Virginia Donahue's and saw only a wide stare of dismay. Wilma turned and walked to the fireplace, looking down into the smoldering embers, and light reflected from the streak of moisture from her cheek. Phil had put both hands down on the desktop and hung his head. He couldn't pray. For the first time, he couldn't find any words to help him, only a huge aching throb inside his chest and a numbness covering his mind. Mr. Thayer. Virginia Donahue used both hands to push herself out of the chair. I'm sorry. She stood looking from Phil to Wilma. Her hands went to her face and pushed against her temples and ran through her hair before she found her voice again. I should have had her tested. I mean, psychologically, she said. I don't understand half of what I heard. I don't know who Kathleen or Eddie were, but I do know that the girl is sick, mentally sick. She needs help. Kathleen was Cerise's sister, Phil replied automatically. Wilma's shoulders were shaking, but she couldn't find the strength to go to her. All he could do was hold on to the desk and keep trying to find words in his mind. Virginia groped through her pockets, then bent and reached for her purse. Phil watched her leaf through a stack of business cards until she stopped and pulled one out. She laid it on the desk and shoved the rest back into her purse. I don't know what you want to do, she said. Her fingers trembled as she fastened the snap on the purse, but I would recommend this man. He runs a private hospital for disturbed children. It's expensive, but he's the best in the area. You mean put her away? Phil said. That's what you're saying, isn't it? No, I mean good psychiatric care for her. Phil, for God's sake, listen to her. The words gushed out of Wilma's mouth. She half stumbled toward a chair, grasped on the back with one hand, and stood, running her fingers over the fabric. Matt's afraid of her. What are we going to do if she decides she doesn't want Matt around? Her voice caught, and she began to sob Even before she collapsed into the chair and put her head against the cushion. I'm afraid of her, Phil. I'm afraid of my own daughter. I'll call him myself as soon as I get back to the office, Virginia Donahue said. It might make it easier for you if I explain the situation to him. Phil lifted his head and gazed out the open door to the lawn. Matt was still sitting on the edge of the grass, intent with watching the bushes. He found his eyesight blurring. They couldn't lose Matt. He looked at Virginia and nodded his permission. What about the rest of it? He asked. Am I still considered a child beater? No, I'll have the charges dropped, she answered. And for a moment, Phil thought she paled. She pushed the strap of her bag over her shoulder before she met his eyes. I tried to do a good job, Mr. Thayer, but Cerise made it sound so different. Her glance fell to the carpet. I'm sorry, she said again. I only hope none of this gets into the newspapers. You have been hurt enough. I wondered if it makes any difference, Phil replied. He felt frozen to the desk. The whole room felt cold. It wasn't the open door. It was his soul. His soul had crawled off and died somewhere. He couldn't find the energy to see the woman to the door. He clutched the edge of the desk and forced himself to move inch by inch around the piece of the furniture, step after step, until he dropped into a swivel chair and sat holding his chin with one hand. Was it his fault? Did Cerise get her ideas from him? Eddie Carter and Kathleen. A chill ran down his spine as he remembered Kathleen's body in his arm, so little and all covered with mud. Because of Cerise, or was it because of him? He lifted his head, looked at the little card lying on the desk. He groped. Across the desktop, a beige card with brown letters. Dr. Robert Benton, Goose Valley Home. Benton's logo in the corner was a brown, line-drawn goose. Phil stared at the drawing of the goose. Like his mother's geese. Like the Gosling Cerise had stomped to death. The look on her face, defiant. Had it started then? He turned and looked at Wilma. She was huddled into a ball in the chair. Her knees were drawn up to her chin, and her arms wrapped around her legs as if she was trying to hold her body together. He slipped out of the chair and bent in front of her. Wilma? He choked when he saw the puffy swelling around her eyes and streak of mascara running down from the corners. Don't tell me to pray, Phil. She kept her teeth clenched and as she said the words, Don't ever tell me to pray again. He put his hands over hers, and the skin was so cold against his, even colder than before. I can't pray either. Then he lowered his head against her hands and felt dampness, tears. They were his own tears. Wilma stirred, put one hand and laid it on his lid. Daddy? Matt's voice made him lift his head and turn. Daddy, the deer hasn't come back. Do you think it's gone? Phil grabbed the edge of Wilma's skirt and rubbed at his eyes, then pushed himself to his feet and looked towards the door. Matt stood with both of his feet apart, waiting for an answer. Probably, he said and looked down at Wilma's. Honey, we've got Matt. He needs us. What's wrong with Mommy? Matt moved into the room and stopped, looking at Wilma with a puzzled frown. Is she sick? She'll be okay, son. Phil reached for the boy's hand and then swept him into his arm, instead hugging him with the need for something solid and real in his grasp. Cerise licked one finger and wiped it across the plate to pick up the last of the cracker crumbs. Miss Donahue had left a long time ago, and still no one had called her for dinner. Her peanut butter sandwich was gone, and so was the milk. How long did Daddy Phil expect her to stay in her room? She pulled her legs underneath her and sat cross-legs, inspecting her fingernails. They let her wear makeup. Why couldn't she wear nail polish? She tilted her hand to one side and tried to imagine bright red nails, long and decorated with one tiny star. At least now they knew she could make things happen by praying. But why were they still treating her like a child? And Daddy Phil still had not said that he was sorry. They had came out upstairs. She had heard talking, and the phone rang lots of times. Maybe they had forgotten her. She opened the bedroom door and walked out into the aroma of spaghetti sauce and garlic. Garlic bread? But there were only 3 places set at the table. Weren't they going to call her? Matt came through the door, carrying a bowl of salad, holding it dangerously by the very rim. He let it thump onto the table and wiped his hand on his pan legs. "Mommy's sick," he said. "Daddy cooked supper." "Sick?" Cerise poked at the salad with one finger. It looked like nothing but a lot of lettuce. "What's wrong with her?" "Don't know," Matt answered. His eyes squinted together at the corners. Daddy carried her up to the bed, but he said that she would be okay. "Sit down, Cerise." Daddy Phil placed a platter of spaghetti onto the table, motioned Matt into a chair, and then sat down and reached for a fork. "Aren't we going to say grace?" Matt asked. "Not tonight." Cerise grabbed a large piece of garlic bread and tore off a big bite. Daddy Phil wasn't even looking at her. Mother must be awfully sick. He was still wearing his sweatshirt. "And it's almost 8 o'clock. "Aren't you going to church?" she asked. "No." But who's going to have services? Mother must be really sick. Daddy Phil has never missed going to church. She laid the bread down and rolled her fork around in the spaghetti, catching the loose strand in her mouth and slipping them in. "There aren't going to be any more services," Daddy Phil said. "But—" She wiped her mouth and lowered her fork. "The candle lighting. I won't get to light the candles anymore?" "No. And don't ask any more questions. It's final." He pushed his plate away and reached for a cup and frowned at the emptiness and then went to the kitchen. Cerise swapped up some spaghetti sauce with her bread and dumped more spaghetti onto her plate. When he came back from the kitchen, she waited until he sat down and stared into the steaming cup of coffee. Mother must be going to die. Then Daddy Phil would see how grown up she was. "Don't worry, Daddy Phil," she said. "I'll pray for Mother." The coffee cup came down onto the table with a bang, slopping coffee over the side and making a dark brown spot across the orange placemat. "No! Your mother will be fine. She doesn't need any of your prayers." He flexed his fingers back and forth as if they hurt. Then, lowering his hand to the table and took a deep breath. "Finish your dinner, Cerise, and then go to bed." "But it's too early. I never go to bed at 8. "Then read in bed," he snapped. "Tonight I want this house quiet. No television." He bent forward and sipped at the coffee without even looking at her. She shrugged and then took a large swallow of milk, draining the last of the glass. "Okay, I'll say good night to Mother and go to bed. Leave your mother alone." Phil sat against the table, and then his voice grew calmer. "She needs rest, Cerise. I don't want her bothered." "It's okay, Daddy Phil." She smiled at him, but he didn't even look at her. He took her plate to the kitchen and grabbed a box of Triscuits before she went to her room. Daddy Phil was still treating her like a baby, and he hadn't even said that he was sorry for hurting her. She listened to the sound of the house. Mother's door opened and closed, then opened and closed again. Matt was saying goodnight. He let Matt go in and not her. Daddy Phil wasn't fair. He crunched the last Triscuits and tossed the box on the floor. "They're all stupid. No more church, no more lighting candles, and seeing all the people watched her. She could never wear the angel dress again." She got up and took the angel dress from the hanger, pressed her cheek against the soft chiffon. Everyone said that she looked like a real angel. It took her a few minutes to get rid of her school clothes and slip into the dress. She stood and raised her arms, letting the folds of the sleeve fall into place. The door to Mother's room opened and closed again. Why did Daddy Phil keep going in there if she wanted Mother to be left alone? She looked at the reflection in the mirror. Maybe she should have stayed at the shelter or gone to the foster home. Maybe someone else would see how special she was, how important it was to be able to pray and make things happen. Pray. She would pray and make them all go away. Mother and Matt and even Daddy Phil, the candelabra was still downstairs. She still hadn't taken it back to the church after the television's filming. She would wear her angel dress, light the candles, and pray harder than ever. She slipped out and tiptoed through the kitchen to the stairs. The fireplace matches were downstairs. She would pray until they all went away. If she prayed hard enough, God will take care of things. The candles flared under the torch of the match, and she stood watching them flicker. Daddy Phil wasn't going to let her light candles again. First, he made her quit lighting the candles on school nights, and now he was going to quit having church. It was wrong to close the church. She reached for one of the candles and stared into the flame. The glass door was slightly ajar. That's why the candles kept flickering. She moved across to the door, hesitated, and looked at the drapes. They were ugly. She told Mother they should be blue, but Mother picked out the ugly tan things. She clamped her lips together and then held the candle against the drape. The fabric blackened. A wisp of smoke rose. The fabric smoldered, and then a tongue of the flame flickered and caught. The fire opened a round hole which widened. The flame began to crawl up the folds of the drapes towards the ceiling. She smiled. She dropped the candle on the floor and back across the room, watching the fire gulp up more and more of the ugly tan fabric. When she reached the stairs, she backed up the steps and sat down at the top to watch the flames. Now she would pray. She would close her eyes and pray hard. If she squeezed them really tight and prayed really hard, no one could make her stop. She would pray until God took care of things. She laced her fingers together, pushed the palms of her hands together as tightly as she could, and prayed. Somewhere above her, the whine of a smoke detector began, and still she kept her eyes shut. Daddy Phil was yelling, but she wasn't going to stop praying. Hands caught her elbows. Someone was lifting her, but she wasn't going to stop. She squeezed her hands tighter and tighter, holding her breath. When she felt her body drop onto the grass, God would fix them. God always answered her prayers. Phil held Wilma tightly against him and watched the beige cars from the brown goose painted on the side pull away from the driveway. The doctor's hand wavered in a consoling gestures, and the car eased from the curb and into the street. Cerise sat in the back seat looking like a carved statue from an ancient cathedral. She still hadn't opened her eyes. The fire engines had come and gone, and she kept her fingers twined together and her eyes squeezed shut. She felt Wilma shiver and led her back inside where the odor of charred wood and smoke had taken possession. Phil, she said. Look up into his eyes. What went wrong? He shook his head and hugged her closer to him. It may have been always wrong. Maybe we should have seen it when she stomped the Goslings. Your mother! Oh God, Phil, what's she going to say when she hears that you closed the church? Probably a lot, but it won't make any difference. Are you sure? He put one hand under his chin and lifted it towards him. The decision is final. He watched Matt poking through the rubble scattered across the front yard and nodded to himself. When a man gets to the point where he thinks of ending his life, it's time to change what's important. Her eyes wider than he had ever seen them. She murmured, Is that the reason for the gun? But she didn't wait for a reply. Instead, she bent and began picking up the leaves that had been trampled across the carpet. What are we going to do now? She asked. I don't know, he admitted, except you are going to get your diploma. He turned at the sound of Matt's step running across the porch. Maybe I'll try selling cars, he grinned. I've had a lot of experience selling religion. Look, Daddy! Matt held a white cat in his arm. Can I keep it? The cat looked up and blinked. The eyes were a deep green and stared steadily into Phil's face. For a second, Phil thought that he was staring into Cerie's eyes. Please, Daddy, we hadn't had a cat for a long time. Phil met the cat's stare and shuddered. Maybe if we don't find the owner," he said. But he drew back when Matt held the cat up to him. It was just a cat, but damn, if he was ever going to pet that thing. And ladies and gentlemen, we have now finished the book called Afternoon of the Gosling. A very good fucked up book for me to start my reading hobby. Okay, guys, what time? Oh my god, it's 3 o'clock. Give me one moment, I'll be right back. hello. All right. Let's do this, okay? Oh shit. I didn't say goodbye to you guys. Aw. All right. Anyway, guys, sorry for you guys. You guys. Uh. Okay. Okay, so thank you for Cornelius for the subscription. Seriously, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Funnily enough, you came in.
Hell yeah, we did it.
Yes, we finally did it. Finished the book. It wasn't the best book, but we did it. Okay, so right now I am. I don't know. Right now I'm trying to set up things basically like how do I set up? Okay, anyone who use OBS here? Uh,
Ah!
yes. Anyone? Okay. Oh my god. Okay. So what there? Oh, it's okay. Wait. Okay. Yeah, put a friendly face. Okay, smiley friendly face. Okay. How to add follower goes in OBS. Please. I need help. I need help. How to add a follower goal overlay to your stream. No, not Streamlab OBS. I want OBS. Oh my god, my Streamlab was so nicely set up. Like, it's so annoying that I couldn't set up anymore. How to set up? Okay. Okay. ちょっと待って. Open OBS. Wait, no. Twitch. Dashboard. I don't know how to do this thing. I mean, I knew how to do this thing, but I forgot how to do these things. You get what I mean? Because I set it up. I set up everything such a long fucking time ago. Like, how would I remember anything at all? No. And go to OBS. Sorry. OBS. Add new browser capture. Oh. Okay, ちょっと待って。Stream Manager. Then manage goals. Followers. Yes, followers. Okay. Follow me for candies. Oh, even though I don't have candies for you guys, but okay. Can't change color. Okay. So copy. Start go. Alright. Ah! That's a huge one. I don't have candies to give out. Okay. Browser. Add follower goals. Okay. Oh my god. That's. Eh? What? Why is it square? Oh wait, can I change? I can. Height is 200. Yeah, that looks better. 100, and this one is 600. Okay. Is it too small? No. I think we're going 80. We're going. Yeah. That's not bad. You guys can see it, right? I don't really want it to be like incredibly. Yeah. Hey, 131, 140. Doing great. And what else? What else can I like? I used to have like those like I don't even know what it's called, like activity here. Like I put it here, like if there's the latest thing that happened to my channel, basically the last follow, the last what should I call it? Stream marker. Toggle. Don't think. It's kind of sad that I don't have that, because it would be nice to like if people can see who is the last person who followed me and all that. But I don't remember what's that called. The problem is. Oh wait! Oh, Cornelius redeem read a quote on love. Cornelius, are you still here? If you're still here, please raise your hand, because you asked to redeem a quote on love, but I just saw it. I'm so sorry. That's why I need a. That's basically why I need a manager, a mod. I don't know. This is really tough shit right now. stream stickers. Let's stream stickers too. I don't know anything. I do not know anything. Cornelius, are you still here? I think he's gone. Should we still do the quote on love for him, even though he's not here anymore? Hello, guys. Thank you, Arun. Thank you. I am right now very much confused. What should I be doing? Component 2 panel stickers. I don't know, guys. What's that thing? Like viewers activity or something like that. That's like, oh my god, I feel so dumb. That's like on the top right, that I used to put it on the top right, basically. I'm so fucking annoyed right now. Do a dragoon backflip. Do a backflip. Do a. What are you guys on about? Okay. Chatto mates. Somersault. A dragoon backflip. I can do that. Sure. Yeah. What? I feel so empty, like without the glass of thing. Like for when people give me bits, they get those things. The okay. Recent. Okay. I don't want Streamlabs. I'm using OBS. Oh. Yeah, I will. Maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll figure it out later, okay? Like later as in like, you know, when I'm like later. You know what I mean? I don't know what I mean. I'm backflipping a lot already. Okay guys. That okay. So here's the thing, right? Okay, so here's the thing. I'm looking at let me look at a few books. Okay, never mind. Let me read a quote on love first. For Cornelius, even though Cornelius has left us. Cornelius redeemed that like 3 hours ago and I didn't even realize because my stream was going insane at the time, I think. But Cornelius is not here, so I couldn't ask Cornelius what page he wants it from. So I'm just gonna choose, okay? A Quote on Love. It's all written by Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist. So it's just a compilation of like anything um, that related to love. They're all quotes, not poems. So I'm going to choose this one for Cornelius. Thank you so much for the sub and the follow. To Cornelius, for your redemption of Quotes on Love. Page 126. When we love, we believe in something from the very depths of our soul, in the strongest feelings that exist in the world, and we are filled by a serenity that comes from the certainty that nothing will destroy our faith. That's the quote on love. And I'm going to repeat to Cornelius. Thank you for the subscription. When we love, we believe in something from the very depths of our soul, in the strongest feelings that exist in the world, and we are filled by a serenity that comes from the certainty that nothing will destroy our faith. It's from the book The Pilgrimage. Thank you once again for that. And also, right now, since we are here, let's talk about what's the next book I should be reading, okay? So, in my hands, I have Botchan by Natsume Soseki. Okay? Hang on. So, we'll do this, okay? I don't know. How many are you guys here? Let me double check that I didn't see wrongly. How many of you guys are here? 7 of you guys are here. I don't. Do you think we should do a poll? I don't know. Is a poll going to help us? 7 viewers or 6 viewers. I don't know. I don't know how many of you guys are here. It truly. Okay. Okay. We can do this. All right. So let's do a poll. Okay. I'll do a poll. Okay. Natsume. You guys can use your points to vote. So. Oh, this. I can't write the whole title. Maybe I'll give more than 2 books, okay? Okay, I'll give more than 2 books for you guys. Since you guys are such good boys and good girls. Okay, and then use your banana points to vote if you guys want to. Wow. I can't. I can't even write. Oh my god. Okay, you have. Okay, you guys have 5 minutes, okay? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Choose the next book, please. So the first one is Natsume Soseki's Bochan. Second is Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go. Classic, classic, classic. Then the third one is Natsume Soseki's Kusa Makura. And then the fourth one, because the title is so long, I couldn't even put the writer's name. The writer is also Ishiguro. Kazuo Ishiguro's book, Artist of the Floating World. Artist of the Floating World. So first one is Natsume Soseki's Bochan. Second is Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go, a very classic. Third one is Natsume Soseki's Kusamakura. The fourth one is Kazuo Ishiguro's second novel, Artist of the Floating World. So you guys can vote using, if you guys want your book to win, you guys can make good use of your banana points to vote also. So 5 minutes. Do it. I'll be nice. I don't vote anything myself. I'll leave it to you guys, okay? Yeah. I don't know. How many guys are here? Actually, I don't even know. That's the problem. There's like so little of you. Poll is not fun when there's so little people. That's why I wanted to have more people, please, but it's okay. Yes, and join me on Discord. I make announcements there usually. I mean, I rarely talk in there, but I make announcements there. Yeah, stuff like that, guys. Ooh, so we only had 3 votes so far. Okay. Oh, whoa, 4 votes. Someone really wants. Another person want Bochan. What do you want? I didn't even give any description about the books. Are you guys like googling it? I guess googling it. Four votes. I'm not voting myself because I'll let you guys choose. So far, Bochan is. It's basing. Yeah, just basing on title. That's good. That's good. Bochan is winning by a lot. I think we have a winner already. Unless on like last second someone like put like 500 points on something else. You guys aren't really using your points, right? You guys are like collecting your points so you can spam me with shit, right?
Yeah. I wish I could open my Streamlabs so at least I can like check out how did I manage to put things on my stuff. Oh my god. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa! Don't do this, guys! I can't read two books at the same time. Somebody! I can't read two books wait! Who voted? 50-50 now. Oh my god. I can't read two books at the same time. You guys gotta choose properly, okay? Put your votes into the right place, guys. Serious. Hey Cornelius, I read your request for oh yay, Bochan won, yay! Hey, oh my god, it was so close. I can't read two books at the same time. Okay, so this decides it, okay? After I finish Bochan, I'm going to read Artists of the Floating World. Alright? Okay, I'll listen. I listen to you guys. Yeah? What? Yeah, you requested for a quote on love, right? Just now? Like 3 hours ago, I believe. 3 hours ago, you did. I don't know if you still remember. But you did request for a... You did request for a... Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you now. But let me like put my books together properly. So, okay. So this just decides it, okay? So the next book that I'm reading, I'm going to set a date. I can't be 100% sure it's going to be next Monday. Because I'm busy with stuff. But I will always make announcement on my Twitter. So follow me on Twitter. I always make announcements there. And also my Discord. Where's my Discord? Yeah, Discord. Pin it. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so join me on Discord, follow me on Twitter, so because I always announce stuff there. So next week or so we are going to start Natsume Soseki's Bochan, and then when I'm done with Bochan, we are going to read An Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro. It's Kazuo Ishiguro's second novel. So let me put my books down somewhere. Okay. Give me a second. And then I'm gonna read to Cornelius the Quote on Love. Hey, Cornelius, can you give me a page from page 10? A page number, sorry. Can you give me a page number from page 10 to page 128? It's your choice, basically. Page 10 to page 123. 128, sorry. Okay, 128. There are 3 quotes. 1, 2, 3. Which one do you want? Do you want quote number 1? Do you quote number 2? Do you want quote number 3? Number 3. Good choice. It's from the book The Alchemist. So all these quotes are by Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist. So you chose a quote from The Alchemist. It's a very short one, but it says,
I don't know if it's possible to love the desert, but it is in the desert that my treasure lies hidden. That's the quote. Yeah, it's Coelho. Yeah. I didn't buy this book, a friend gave it to me. It's a birthday present, I think. I think she misunderstands that my love for poems to my love for quotes. Or maybe my friend is trying to give me a message by giving me a book about quotes on love. And I just take it as a friendship. But the treasure lies hidden. Okay? Cornelius. I don't know if it's possible to love the desert, but it is in the desert that my treasure lies hidden. So it's hidden somewhere. Bujang people rise up. Okay. Yeah, that's just how I know that you are a Malaysian. Or somewhere near my country. I just say out loud. That is not good. Did you found me because I used the Malaysia tag? Or did you found me because I'm playing Final Fantasy 14? Because the other time I thought that someone found me through the Malaysia tag, but they told me that they found me because I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. But the funny thing is that I wasn't even playing the game. I'm like fucking around. Like I'm reading a book. So, okay, so Cornelius, is it your first time here or something? I don't know. I don't remember seeing your name. I'm sorry if I don't remember. I have like the memory of a thingy. Reddit? Wait, hang on. Wait, no, Reddit? I don't think I've ever posted anything on Reddit. Dude, no, can you give me a link? Reddit? I've never advertised anything on Reddit about this. Did someone posted my video there? I really never posted anything myself. I never advertised myself on Reddit. What's that post say about me? That's spooky. That's super spooky. I'm a huge Redditor. But I've never posted anything about my channel. Oh shit! You can't link because they don't let people spam links in. Cornelius, go to my Discord. Go to my Discord and just put the link in that Discord. Chatter. Spoopy. What was I doing? What was I doing? And you know what? I actually prefer OBS in some way or another. But it just felt very barren. My channel felt very barren. Like I wanted to put something on. But I'll figure that out like when I'm free. Later today or tomorrow. The Discord is invalid. Invalid again? I thought I put up. Wait, what? Give me 1 second. Okay? Because I fucking hate this thing. This Discord bullshit. I thought I already put up a link that is that won't expire. Never expire. Okay. Generate new link. Copy. Okay. ちょっと待ってください. Yeah. Oh, I made another one as well. Oh my god. And now there's like 2 links. I should have left this to my manager, Tristy. Yeah. Link? Hello, Cornelius. Welcome to my channel. I mean, to my Discord. Yeah, feel free to like chat or something, but truly this channel is pretty dead except for announcement page where I do announcement and stuff. um just anything to, and the general chatting is fine. General chatting is fine. General chat, or I don't know, meme central is fine as well. Yeah, that's funny. We should have, I think we should have, what? It's on our Malaysia. Ah, it's in the comments, isn't it? Guys, I'm not a VTuber. I know. Okay. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. I'm not a VTuber. Okay? I'm not a VTuber. I know that it sounds wrong that you're looking at an avatar talking and saying that I'm not a VTuber, but I want to tell you guys, I'm not a VTuber, okay? I only have an avatar because I only have an avatar because I don't want to share my webcam, okay? And it makes me more comfortable to have this avatar, okay? I'm not as good looking as this avatar, and I'm not here to cheat to get sims. I'm just here to have fun. I mean, if you guys want to think of me as a VTuber, ah! but I'm not. But I'm not. I'm not used like. I don't know how to explain it. It's like trying to convince myself that I'm not a VTuber. I'm not. I'm not. I don't do conventional VTuber things. And I'm not as talented as those VTuber in that's like listed in the links. They are all like, you know, talented, and they are all talented, and they have like company to represent them, or they have like a very original character avatar. Like they like see all of them, they are represented by a talent company, or that they have like whatchamacallit, um I don't know how to they they yeah they yeah, and they okay, what I'm trying to say is that they all have a rig. They have a very well designed rig. They have a very well designed avatar. They pay money to get their ideas turned into an avatar. I just go into VRoid and make this thing. Okay? I just go into VRoid to do these things. I don't have an expensive rig. I don't have a company to represent me. I actually went on a hiatus for like 3 months or 4 months straight because of issues IRL. Okay, so but thank you for your follow, and thank you for being a subscriber. I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate it. But I just want to say that what I do is completely different from what other people do, and I don't know where I'm standing. I'm not saying that I'm special. I truly am not saying that I'm special, because nobody is. But yeah. I mean, Vera is an avatar. I don't have a rig. I don't have like an expensive rig to represent myself. Basically, um, okay, what I'm trying to say is that I'm not special, but at the same time, I don't do what others do. The games that I play is not like Vera is a free rig, so I feel uncomfortable being put at the same level as other VTubers because they have spent money and they are much more dedicated in what they do. I'm just fucking around basically. So, if anything, I feel inferior to them. But what I do is I play Final Fantasy 14 mostly. I do stream when I do main scenario quest. I do stream when I go raiding, but I have stopped raiding for about 6 months now. I don't know if I'm any good anymore. But a lot of like those sound clips that you get in my Banuna Points rewards, they are from my raiding days. But mostly what I do is read book on stream. Read book in game on stream. Through my Twitch channel. I play main scenario quest in Final Fantasy 14. Sometimes I play other games. If you look at my schedule, I'm supposed to have Yakuza 6 on every Saturday, but I have stopped that for a long time. But I do have 3 VODs on. I do have 3 VODs on Yakuza 6 in my video section that you can check out if you want to. I have a lot of rating content available for you to watch if you want to. I have a lot of previous book readings VODs as well if you want to listen to them. Yeah, I don't know if I'm entertaining at all. That's the biggest thing that I feel that I actually don't know if I'm entertaining. Like, I mean, when I'm reading book, probably not. I don't know. Like, I really don't know if I'm like entertaining at all. Actually, I don't know what I'm doing for my life. I don't know. I'm having a identity crisis right now, I think. But yes, thank you so much for. Yeah, I'm rambling. Okay, anyway, I think I should be going now. Because it's almost 4 hours. I'm gonna fix. I'm definitely going to fix my. Oh, thank you, Cornelius. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll probably be back on next Monday, but I can't promise. But I will definitely update on my Discord and my Twitter. And whatchamacallit. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here today. To finish up the book. We will be starting a new book on next week. I will get back to you guys as soon as possible. Whether it's on Monday or Wednesday. Depends on how busy I am. And then another thing is, have a good day. Have a good weekend. Yes, it's Friday today. I just remember. Have a great weekend. Eat good food. Relax, chill, play games. Have fun. I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much once again for the follow and for the subscription, Cornelius. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me, even though I kept saying that I'm not a VTuber, but it still means a lot to me. Alright, I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye bye. Oh wait, I need to send you all off with my favorite song in the world.
Where is it?
Have you ever had a dream that you could know you could know you could you wanna know you could
Danger song? I have to open up. Yeah, wait. Yeah, we should show. Okay, let me go open up all my rewards. Danger song is like everyone's favorite. I don't know why.
Dangerous. Danger. Danger.
Thank you. When you guys get that, when you guys hear that song during that raid, do you guys thought of me? Do you guys sing along?
What a pussy.
Ah. Ah. Yes, it's. I don't know why. I feel like if it's something that if it's something that a streamer that I watch do, I think I would probably, if I listen to the music, I'll probably just sing along the Danger song. Cornelius, did you catch the Danger song? I think Cornelius has gone. He's not here anymore. It's okay. Next time. Next time someone plays the Danger song for him. Alright. Enough babbling. I'll talk to you guys in the, next time. Have a great weekend ahead, and thank you, Cornelius. Thank you for the confirmation that you have heard it. So people, don't waste so much. Don't waste 700 Banana points for that song. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. I'm really happy today. Thank you so much for cheering me up. I appreciate it. Thank you for the sub. Thank you for the follow. See you guys soon. Bye bye.